Prophet Marshall Occurrence. So this video is going to be about us as God's true elite, spiritual warriors, spiritual soldiers. For his true elite spiritual warriors and soldiers. This is what we're here to do. Now this might seem cruel, but see, I'm going to start showing you your position as a spiritual warrior. You wasn't taught properly. You wasn't taught properly, no you wasn't. I'm going to show you your whole spiritual position. I'm going to show you that many of you were influenced by white American Christianity. And I'm not a racist, but I'm going to break down why you think the way you do and how you've been doctrinized by white American Christianity. See, what freed me from thinking I can't fight back is when I started listening to African Christians in Africa, in Jamaica. And you could be white, you could be Hispanic, Latino, and you're watching my videos. You could be Asian, and you're watching my videos. All over the world, and you're watching my videos. What I want you to do is go and look up African ministries in spiritual warfare messages from African ministries or Jamaican ministries, and you begin to understand rules and regulations in the spiritual world that you wasn't taught here in America. This is how I got free from it. So just in case you thought I was using witchcraft, just in case you thought I was using evil, I'm not using evil. I am free from a punk mentality. Like, we just get kicked around and we don't have no way to fight back. We know people playing in our face and we don't have no way to fight back. See, that's how religious people fight among each other. That's how Americans fight among each other. That's why you got the term playing in your face. You know why they playing in your face? Because you let them play in your face long enough to create a term playing in your face. In order for you to create that term, you must have been letting them do it. So while you thought I was against Africans, ironically, man, my whole fighting style is African. While you thought I was a sellout to black people, ironically, my whole fighting style and spiritual warfare, you see what I'm talking about? I learned it from African Christians. I learned it from Jamaican Christians. While many of you, even though you listen to black ministers, you still are influenced by white American Christianity worldviews and perspective and theology. And so the people you listen to, they are influenced by white American Christianity. That's why I'm trying to show you. This is why you think you can't fight back. This is why you only think that the battle is just the Lord and you don't play a position. I can show you, even though the battle has always been the Lord's, you have to play a position. I can prove that biblically, where God's people played a position. Okay, so let's slow down right there. Although the battle belongs to the Lord, and we know that. Anybody down here with a brain knows that. Anybody in spirituality knows that. But I can show you where God's people played a position while the battle belonged to the Lord and vengeance is the Lord, and God decided for his people to still play a position. What I challenge you to go look up is the position that God's people played during war in the Bible. Go look up all the positions that God's people played during war. This is what freed me from American Christianity, because see, once I got free from America, the next thing to follow was me being free from American Christianity. Once I got free from America, the next thing that followed was me being free from American Christianity. Okay, so you see what happened. Let me remind you, if you don't know, the most spiritually potent Christianity is not in America. The most potent Christianity is in Africa, South America. The most potent Christianity is not here in America. How is it here in America with all these carnal Christians and worldly Christians and people who think they Christians but they halfway divination and witchcraft, and they don't think we know? But we got the upper hand. You know, we got the upper hand because at least I do, and I'm trying to show you how to do it. Whether it be your family, whether it be people in this neighborhood that you stay in, or my neighborhood that I stay in, like I'm gonna show you that what your problem is as a Christian is that you've been taught by docile American Christians that you can't fight back. This is on point and this is on topic as far as the message. This is on point because before I can proceed with a mindset as a Christian that we want severe escalation with wars with America, in order for you to accept that perspective and worldview from a spiritual position or a Christian position, I gotta show you how you have been doctrinized with American Christianity, which believes that you can't fight back. But then I can take you to all these wars in the Bible, and I want you to explain all these wars in the Bible. That's all I'm asking. So the time has come for American Christians to now play a position like Christians in the Bible, like God's people in the Bible, like God's servants in the Bible. Now you have to play a position like God's nation in the Bible, where we fight against other nations, because we are no longer in a Disneyland type world where Christians are respected and loved. Now we're in the last times where it's evil, even from our family, where they hate Christians and the community hate Christians. That causes us to adjust to be like people in the Bible. Because of the gang stalkers position and the witchcraft position and these gay and lesbian positions in our community, this has caused us to play a position. It's about position. I'm going to show you. Listen, I'm going to narrow this down, besides me and your opinion, to a position that you cannot deny that's in the Bible. We have to become like a position that's in the Bible. We're God's people. God's true people play a position in spiritual warfare against physical human beings. Now, like I've always explained, if physical war against other human beings was an evil concept or an unholy concept, then why would God command his people to go to war in the Bible? We talking about Bible-believing Christians. We ain't talking about those who don't believe in the Bible. We ain't even going to address them as among our people, right? We're only talking about people who believe in the Bible, right? So if you believe in the Bible, if you're a Bible-believing Christian, that's all I'm talking to right now. Because in order to believe in the Christianity, you have to believe in the Bible. Where you think Christianity came from? The Bible. So if you don't believe in the Bible, how you believe in Jesus? Come on, make it make sense. If you don't believe, think about what I'm saying. If you don't believe in the Bible, how you believe in Christianity? See, some people so smart they stupid, and that's where you get in the problem. You can't be so smart you stupid, right? Like, I don't try to figure out everything, like who wrote the Bible and all the things in the Bible. All I know is anybody that would write a religious book wouldn't write it like that, because it has too many imperfections of God's people in it. It's too many things that they did that was wrong, that if you was an author of a religious book, you would make these perfect servants. You would make these perfect people, right? If you was writing a book, wouldn't you make perfect people? You wouldn't be smart enough to make them with flaws, because that wouldn't make sense according to religion. Make sense? So a religious author would make them very smart. I mean, very pure, very righteous. But as you can see in the Bible, why I believe in the Bible, it has real humanity in it, and you can see the flaws of humanity in the Bible. It's nobody that's genius enough among all these authors to make a religious book that's supposed to show you righteous people. But even with that concept, they go beyond that to make imperfect righteous people. It's nobody genius to do that. That's history. So if you believe in the Bible, back to that. If you believe in the Bible, then you have to believe in the wars in the Bible. You have to understand that God commanded his people to go to war against physical people. Physically. Okay, so God, as we know, God is holy at all times, right? Right. God is holy at all times. So when he commanded his people to go to war, was he unholy at that time? Was God impure when God is holy on whether it's the Old Testament or the New Testament? See, I graduated that perspective. It's God's word. It's the same word. Jesus didn't follow the New Testament. Jesus followed the Old Testament. That's 7 out. Oh, for those who say that's Old Testament, these arrogant, cocky Christians, right? Old Testament, that's what Jesus followed, was the Old Testament. What Jesus followed, how he followed the New Testament. Jesus didn't read the New Testament. Jesus did not read the New Testament. Jesus didn't read Thessalonians. Jesus didn't read Hebrews and Galatians and Philippians. Jesus read the Old Testament. Let's ponder that. That's for all these American people. See, I relearned and unlearned. I relearned and unlearned. And I unlearned American Christianity. I'm not even an American Christian. I'm a Middle Eastern Christian. See, that's what my enemies don't know. I'm a Middle Eastern Christian, which means, listen, you ain't gonna find me acting like none of these American people anymore. You ain't gonna find me acting like none of these American Christians anymore, where I let people play in my face and I know what I can do based on the Bible. Okay? So you ain't gonna find me acting like no McDonald Christian. Some Wendy's eating Christian. You ain't gonna find me acting like a Wendy's eating Christian. Jesus followed the Old Testament. Jesus read the Old Testament, including all the wars that's in the Old Testament. Okay? You supposed to be like Jesus. Okay, so why you ain't reading the Old Testament like Jesus? Huh? We're talking talking about real Christians, right? Well, you should listen. If you know my history, you should know that's right down my alley. You should know that's right down my alley. See, what I want you to realize, they got to use all these people against me, but they still couldn't beat one person. I'm one person. I ain't got nobody on my side. I'm one person. Look at all these weak people that couldn't beat me, and I'm one person. I want you to ponder that. Look at all these weak people that couldn't beat one man. Couldn't break down my mind, couldn't break down my spirit, couldn't break. I'm still in my right mind. I'm still who I am. You could say whatever you want. Listen, you can have that. You could think about it. You could do what you want to do with it. You could put it in the Happy Meal box and revisit it every Christmas. You could do whatever you want. But I'm going to be right here in my right mind as I truly am. Right? Right. In the Old Testament, if we don't fight against flesh and blood, explain all the Old Testament wars. For all you American Christians, if we don't fight against human beings, then explain all the wars in the Old Testament. Can you explain it intelligently? Where God is holy, right? This is what I want you to, before you even say, well, something else happened and then it became a new time, and before you even say something goofy like that, that ain't even what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the nature of God during war. During war, the nature of God in the Old Testament, that's what I'm getting at. Where God commanded his people to go to war. So, besides your perspective and how you feel about war, we're talking about God's perspective on war, right? If war was an unholy concept, then why would God allow his people and command his people to go to war? So then you have to admit it. That war is in the Bible, that God commands his people to go to war against real physical human beings. Besides my opinion and your opinion, the word of God is what settles the whole situation, right? Right. Among real sound-minded Christians, among real Christians. You ain't gonna sit up and argue with me when I show you the word of God, right? No, you're not gonna do that. See, I learned to talk with Christians, and I know how to talk to Christians. All I got to do, it's not deception. It's not deception. All I got to do is show you the word, and that's going to go beyond me and your opinion on a subject matter, on a situation. If I can show you in the Bible wars after wars after wars, right? How you going to sit up and act like it's no possibility that we will have to fight against physical human beings when there's wars all in the Bible? I want somebody to explain it. You can put it in the thread if you want to. How can you explain wars in the Bible, but then American Christians talking about we'll never fight against human beings? Can you explain that biblically? Not explain it for who you want to be as a loving person. We ain't talking about that. We talking about, can you explain it biblically, where you can show me in the Bible that there is no possibility. You prove it with the Bible that there is no possibility that we will fight against physical human beings. My question to you are you saying that it's no possibility that we will fight against physical human beings? Yes or no? God's people in America, Christians in America, are you saying that Christians in America, with all this gang stalking, that it's not a possibility that we will fight against physical human beings? Yes or no? That's a yes or no question. So you can't rule it totally out when it's in the Bible that God's people fought against human beings. You can't rule it totally out. You see the revelation knowledge I got? You can't rule it out when it's in the Bible. Okay, so I'm going to show you what happened to you. I'm going to show you what happened to you. As Americans, you have been protected, heavily protected by the National Guard. As American Christians, you have been protected by the National Guard. You have been protected by the FBI, the CIA, every branch of the military, even American military stationed in other countries. This has been your whole worldwide protection, summed up, right? And through that protection, you begin to, as Americans, live a very peaceful life, unharmed, unbothered, unchallenged as Christians until now. Until now, you were unchallenged in the past, and this is what formed your theology. This is what formed your theology, to where you think that through your safe environment, it began to form another theology that you ain't gonna never have to fight against human beings because you're so safe, you're so safely protected by the number one most powerful country, as militarily speaking. And through this, you begin to even form your whole perspective differently on the Bible and what you must do to defend yourself. Your protection from America changed you so much as a Christian that you began to think that you would never have to defend yourself because you so heavily protected. It was the heavy protection you got from the Americans reformed your whole theology biblically. Now I conceived it. That's it right there. Your heavy protection from American military, FBI, police was so heavy there was no strange wars like it is now. Now it's like any other third world country. It's funky just like anywhere else. But before the funk, right? Before the funk set in, if you will. Before the funk set in, if you will, you were so heavily protected in that silence and peace and tranquility, you began to form your own theology that we will never have to fight against human beings. And where you take this scripture from, I'm gonna tell you, you want to know where you got the scripture from? You got the scripture from, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Right? You being in America, soon as you heard this scripture, many of your forefathers of Christianity heard this scripture and thought, yeah, I don't have to fight against flesh and blood. Look, I'm adding to it, right? That was the reality. Now I'm adding to what their thoughts were saying while they was processing that perspective. I'm well protected. The police protects me. Everybody protects me. Now you see what I'm saying? The military protects me. I won't ever have to fight against flesh and blood. I don't fight against flesh and blood because I'm so protected by the police. I'm so protected by the military. I'm so protected as white Americans. This perspective is from white American Christianity. Now imagine you had peace in America, and then you was white in America. You got double peace. Now imagine you being a preacher that's white in America. Imagine your theology on defending yourself. Imagine your theology on defending yourself. If you white in America, it ain't no secret that most Christians are influenced by white American Christians, right? So that's why you think like you do. It's not the Bible. You was taught or by white American Christians or black Christians or Hispanic or Latino Christians that were taught by other white American Christians. So far as spiritual ancestry, it's no way around most of these preachers being taught by white America, forming their worldviews based on white America. So then we have to go to white American experience. We have to go to the white American Christian experience and see why he formed his mentality. Like, we will never fight against flesh and blood. The reason why he formed that opinion, because he was first white in America. He was first white in America. Why he gonna be white in America and think he gotta fight against flesh and blood? No, he good. He white. Remember, this worldview in theology was formed way long time ago. We don't fight against flesh and blood. And I'm saying it just like people say it informally, even though it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood. This is how people say it informally. We fight not against flesh and blood, right? That theology and worldview was formed probably in the 50s and the 40s and the 60s. Definitely by the 60s it was formed. But it could go back even further to maybe the 30s or the 20s. How you think white America was doing when they formed this opinion, we don't fight against flesh and blood? How you think they was doing in America? We ain't talking about right now when they got it's crazy right now. We talking about when they formed this opinion that we don't fight against flesh and blood. Where you think they was at? Geographically, socially, in the American community, where you think they was at? They ruled this country. So imagine, here's the next step. A white American man that has no wars, no real wars, as he just walk up and down the streets, as he just navigate and live a regular life through his community. He has no wars. He has no fighting against flesh and blood. As just a white man. Now imagine that particular same group of people becomes Christians. Mind you, they already don't have no wars as white Americans. He becomes a Christian, having no wars in his life, having nobody in his way, having no problems in the world, right? Not even having problems in the overall world, not that they can't handle. Now imagine that same group of people with the same worldviews and perspective, and they see this clearly, that they have no enemies as white Americans in America. Now imagine that same group of people become Christians. And then they happen to read, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. How you think he gonna read that with his experience in America? How you think he gonna read it? He gonna read it like, I ain't got no problems. So ain't no need for us to fight each other, because I ain't got nobody fighting me. If you don't got nobody fighting you, why would you feel the need to even think that you gotta fight somebody back? So from his white American experience, he began to doctrinize all Christians according to his white American experience, not according to his Christianity experience. According to his white American experience, he began to doctrinize and influence the whole Christian community. That, you ain't gonna have no fights because he ain't have no fights. You ain't gonna fight against human beings because he ain't have to go through it. Now, the African American Christian, wasn't they burning our churches down? That's 7 out. Wasn't they burning the churches when we was Christians in America? Wasn't they burning crosses in front of the churches when we was Christians? You see the black Christian experience the whole time. Wasn't they threatening us? Wasn't they bombing the churches where little girls were dying in the churches? So how would you think that we don't fight against flesh and blood or human beings when we really are? Whether you're on the defense or the offense, you have a fight with physical human beings. Listen, for smart people, don't you realize that whether you're on the offense or the defense, if you're on the defense, meaning you ain't the antagonist but you're being attacked, don't you realize that's still a fight even though you're on the defense? I'm trying to show you how to be a fighter. Don't you realize it's still a fight even though you ain't doing nothing? Don't you realize it's still a fight even though the gang stalkers is attacking you, but you ain't doing nothing? It's still a fight even though you ain't doing nothing to them. Well, you still being fought, so how it ain't a fight? So then you're physically fought by human beings. And we've been physically fought by human beings as black people, as black Christians from the very beginning. You have been fighting with human beings, with flesh and blood from the very beginning of your American experience as American Christians. You've been fighting against it. You still fighting against them. So how can you say it in ignorance that you don't fight against human beings? You don't fight against flesh and blood. You, as black people, you've been fighting against flesh and blood the whole time. Now I got you where I need you to be. Now, with that being said, you see I got you lined up, right? Now go to the Bible. This is what I did after learning these things. After God showed me these things, this is what I learned directly after that. Look at all the wars in the Bible. Look at all the wars in the Bible. Look at all the wars in the Bible. Remember that white America wanted to hide information from us. They didn't even want slaves to read. They didn't even want you to gather information. So you telling me they still want you to, they okay with you gathering information right now? No, they not. They still selective about what information you gather, as long as it don't affect them. See, when it affects them, they mad about you gathering certain information. They mad that you don't figured it out, that you can fight back. We've been fighting against flesh and blood the whole time as black people. What are you talking about? Whether we was on the defense or the offense, a fight is a fight. You've been fighting against flesh and blood on the defense as black people consistently. So how you gonna say how you gonna take the white Christian American perspective that you don't fight against anybody according to his experience? That's what it is. It's according to his experience. Because when we look in the Bible, how many wars is in the Bible? Go look it up. How many wars, how many physical wars? That's some homework for you. How many physical wars are there in the Bible? Okay. So, right there, we understand that God at some point, here's the punchline, God at some point allows his people to go to war. What do I base that off of? See, you're listen, I'm trying to get that docile civilian American energy off of you, where you're a docile American. At some point, it ain't God's fault, it's your fault. It's your fault. You listen, you've been doctrinized by white American Christianity, and I'm trying to show you that. At some point, God brings his people to war. You can't tell me you living in America and you've been following black Christianity based on black perspective and black experience as a Christian that's black. If you here in America, your whole worldviews and most of your worldviews are from white America. Even your Christianity. I just re-educated myself. Where I went to Africans that's Christians. I went to Jamaicans that's Christians that believe that if a witch does not repent, they must be put to death. You want the Bible on it? Exodus 22:18. What does Exodus 22:18 say? Suffer not a witch to live. That's God's attitude on it. Don't even let a witch live. While you sitting up thinking about evangelizing, God didn't say evangelize them, did he? See, you don't want to hear that. That's 7 out. Did God say evangelize the witch? Love on the witch? Love on the warlock? God didn't say that, did he? What does Exodus 22:18 say? Without your opinion, without your rinky-dink opinion, what does Exodus 22:18 say? Suffer not a witch to live. So how you gonna say, you see the job the prophet got? How you gonna say that we will never have no physical altercations where we have to put people to death, but Exodus 22:18 says, suffer not a witch to live? Because you as Americans never played that position. You played a docile civilian position, but the Bible is the Bible. Don't blame God. No, it's you as Americans that's been taught by white American Christianity. The Bible says, suffer not a witch to live. Is that my opinion? Is that me saying it in hate? Is that my hatred? What I got to do with that? Exodus 22:18 is Exodus 22:18 before I was even born. Decades and decades and centuries before I was even born, Exodus 22:18 says, suffer not a witch to live. So what I'm trying to show you is that's God's perspective foundationally on those who practice witchcraft. That's foundation. You can't erase that foundation with American Christianity where we gonna just love on them and everything. No. You need to consider Exodus 22:18 foundation. I didn't say you couldn't evangelize to them with them at some point, but I want you to consider. See, there's a balance. You see the balance. You can evangelize, but consider Exodus 22:18 a foundational experience or a foundational perspective of God on witches. That's a foundational perspective of God outside of me and your opinion. God wanted in Exodus 22:18 for witches to be put to death. That's beside me and your opinion. Right? That ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't got nothing to do with you. See, I'm trying to show you, you've been doctrinized by Americans. And see, for many of us that's been played with by America, you got to come out of America to be free from America. Does that make sense? You got to come out of their culture. You got to come out of the way they think. And then I'm telling you, it's a spiritual bondage. When you come out of America, then you get free from religious American Christianity that tells you you won't fight against human beings. I'm going to tell you why you ain't get free from it, because you were still in the culture. You still a part of the Americans. When I came out of it, then I began to be free, which means it was beyond information. It was a spiritual bondage. Woo. It was a spiritual bondage. And that's why many of you, no matter what, even beyond information, if I'm right or wrong, you still got something in you, right? That's going along with the American Christianity that you once was taught. You know what that is? That's a spiritual bondage. And the reason why you can't get free from it, you know why? Because you ain't free from America. You ain't free from America. That's why you can hear me, but you don't hear me. That's why you can perceive what I'm saying, but it doesn't register. You know why? Because you're not free from America. That's what it is. Am I saying anything wrong to anybody? Exodus 22:18, suffer not a witch to live. Wars all throughout the Bible. Am I saying anything wrong? It's just not according to white American docile happy-go-lucky Christianity. You're used to happy-go-lucky Christianity, where it's a behavioral club. When you go to church, it's a behavioral club. American churches is a behavioral club to be on your best behavior morally. But don't the Bible says be angry and sin not? Oh, I can be angry. I can walk around angry. You scared? I could be angry about a million different things. Are you scared? The Bible says be angry and sin not. Ain't you angry about all this gang stalking? Ain't you angry about having no money? Ain't you angry when these people owe you money and you could be doing way better today? You could be somewhere in the motel eating pizza, chilling, on a new phone, laying back under the AC. Done took 3 showers. And you ain't angry. I'm going to tell you why you ain't angry. Look at your condition. Look at your situation. How can you not be angry? Look at these people gang stalking you. How can you not be angry? Because you are still doctrinized as a slave. A slave can't be angry. Most slaves ain't gonna be angry. When you ain't angry with apparent disrespect and oppression and poverty, it's because you're doctrinized as a slave. That's the only type of people that's gonna walk around and act like it's everything is all good. I can show you a million reasons why I'm angry. Why you thinking it's all about these gang stalkers? Why you think it's all about the gang stalkers? I can show you a million reasons why I'm angry right now. See, us as grown people, this is why I don't try to read people. This is why I don't, because a grown man or woman, I would like to think I'm not that easy to read. Which means me as a sophisticated man, it's a million things on my mind. Why you flattering yourself as gang stalkers, thinking it's about you? You thought my anger was limited to these gang stalkers, didn't you? I'm looking at my present situation. How about that? Don't flatter yourselves. I'm thinking about my present situation, where I can have plenty of money, when I can have an apartment and have some place to live, could be sitting under AC eating pizza. Or something else. Eating good right now. Listen, buddy, until you get angry, you ain't gonna be motivated to get the change you need in your life. That's what I'm talking about. That's why the Bible says be angry and sin not, because anger motivates you. How you gonna be motivated happy and broke? Happy and broke? You're gonna be motivated? No, you're not. Happy and they oppressing you and gang stalking you and playing in your face and playing with your family. How you gonna change that situation where you happy about it? Where you're just happy in that situation? Anger is going to motivate you. If anybody have used anger in the proper way like I have, see, it's a healthy way to use anger. You know the healthy way to use anger? You use it to motivate you to get out your present situation. You ain't angry enough. You ain't angry enough about your situation. That's why you ain't fasting. That's why you ain't giving no offerings. Because you ain't angry enough. When you get angry enough, you're going to go on a fast to change the situation. Now, you see my perspective on it. We do not care about these religious Americans because they listen, we have declared war on the Americans. And we are going to war by spiritual means. Here's what you need to understand. As of right now, August 18th, 2026. Us as God's people. We are not using physical weapons. But I gotta get your mind focused. You see, it's the first turning point. We're not using physical weapons yet. But we have turned to point our spiritual weapons towards the Americans. That's the first step. The first step as in this war is that we don't use physical weapons. Listen, these theologians thought they had me right there. Oh, they good now, ain't they? Well, he said he ain't using physical weapons. He's good. But I'm not docile like you. I'm still not docile like you. I still keep weapons on me. I still keep them on me. I still keep them on me. Okay? I still do. Right near me. Before I even said something about it. Let me tell you something. We are not using physical weapons right now. Even though we're armed. Even though, as a soldier, you should be armed at all times. If you follow Sun Tzu, you should always be armed at all times. Even while I'm out here. Yes, that's right. You don't know. Somebody might take full advantage and see you in the backyard. Oh, why not? Think about it. That's how you know who built like a soldier and who's not. Well, why couldn't they do that? Why couldn't they? See, I just grew up and became the full spiritual soldier. That's it. I'm not doing it to be cool. I'm not doing it because I think I'm tough. I'm doing it because it's survival in this situation. Look at it for what it is. Not what you want it to be. Look at it for what it is and not what you want it to be. That's the first thing a soldier learns. Don't look at it for what it is. Don't look at it for what you want it to be. Look at it for what it is. Don't look at it for this other reality. See, this is how people become casualties. You know why? Because you are not accepting the reality of this situation. And therefore, you ain't doing nothing about it. You ain't got no corresponding action about it. Even though we are not out here doing physical operations, if you're wondering the way I talk, why the Americans haven't investigated me, why they ain't shut down my YouTube pages, first of all, I got freedom of speech. That's number one. Number two, they cannot find any physical operations that I talk about, that I'm going to do, and I command you to do. I do not command you to go out here and do a physical operation of any kind, of any size and magnitude against the Americans. I do not command you to do that. Because that's not the season we in. That's not the season we're in right now. But for soldiers, real physical soldiers that have done tours, I have lived with real military, just in case you think I'm a toy soldier. Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte. Since the last time you seen me as Charlotteans, I have lived with real soldiers that have done real tours. Okay? I'm not the same guy that you once knew. Come to terms with it. I've lived with real military. I've lived with real people that done real tours. For real soldiers, you might say, well, this ain't nothing, man. They talking about using spiritual weapons, and ain't nothing gonna happen here. Ain't nothing going on here. We got a real war in our hands, and we got real people out here. And the prophet ain't talking about nothing. He talking about using spiritual weapons. We got real people out here bugged out. No. Hear me out. Hear me out. See, I address both sides because there's two sides. There's people that want to use spiritual weapons, and there's people that don't even know how to use spiritual weapons against human beings, like we're presently doing. And then there's others on the whole other extreme polar of the spectrum that don't care nothing about no spiritual weapons. They see this crazy people out here gang stalking and they want to do something about it. Well, this is what I'm addressing concerning you. This is how I'm addressing. This is the position that is most effective, is using spiritual weapons. Pay attention. You just got to understand what the progression is. The progression is escalation of wars against the Americans. What you see going on. These tariffs right now lingering between Canada and America. What time is it? 11:16. Less than an hour, we're going to find out if Canada and the U.S. has come to an agreement concerning tariffs. If not, there's going to be tariffs all over Canada. We fight on a whole nother level besides bullets and guns and knives and everything else, even though we stay armed. We fight on a whole nother level. We fight on a whole nother level. On a whole other level where we're more effective using spiritual weapons. However, if in the future, in the coming future, the prophet can transform to a general that will orchestrate weapons, physical weapons against our enemies. If we feel that there is a real physical threat that is coming at us at the speed of light, what we gonna do? But that's not the season we in right now. So I want military to understand, and those who think like military to understand, and those who think like militia to understand, the prophet is not slipping. We're understanding that it may come to physical war. It may come to that. But right now we're not in that season, being that we're so effective this way. This is what I'm trying to show you. With spiritual war, we can finish this war without even fighting a physical war. Some of y'all are bloodthirsty and you want to fight a war. I don't. Now you see my full perspective. I really don't want to fight a war. I'm going about it by spiritual means right now, using spiritual weapons right now. I'm on a 10-day fast. 4 days is almost accomplished. What time is it? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 more hours and some change before I finish 4 days. I got 4 days complete. I got 6 more days. Okay? I'm moving now into the middle of this fast. You got to keep me in your prayers. I'm almost halfway in the middle of this fast, and it's doing what it needs to do. It's doing what it do, because see, we got real things going on that we focused on. This is for people who believe in physical arms, and that's the only way. What I'm trying to show you is, listen, you about that life, right? I'm trying to show you you can take that mentality and come over here, where you neutralize targets a different way, and we neutralize targets by spiritual means. Well, we ain't got to pick up no guns. Look at the wars that America's going through, these tariff wars with different countries. Look at what's going on with Canada and America. That's a war. That's real. That's life. That's worse than what you could do with guns. So now you see the full prophet realize where I'm not gung-ho and bloodthirsty. It's a balance. But it ain't no way we can get away from pointing our weapons towards these human beings who are consistent and persistent in witchcraft and spiritual war against us. They're too persistent for us not to point some type of weapons towards them. We choose right now to use spiritual weapons against them. Okay? We're fasting against them. Yes, we are against them. Against them, yes. Listen, you're taught by American white docile Christianity, and you should have knew an African Christian an African spiritual warrior was gonna rise up against America, and that's me. That is me. That would be me. That's my position. I'm not a thug. I'm not a gangster. Get that out your mind. Stop thinking because I'm talking like this as a black man, I'm being a man and speaking like I'm supposed to speak, that I'm being a gangster. I'm not a gangster. A criminal? Are you kidding me? At 45, you think I'm a criminal? I know better than to be a criminal. I'm smarter. That's a mistake of most young people. I'm too smart to be a criminal. I'll suffer before I be a criminal. But I'm human. But I'm human at the same time. But I'm too smart as a 45 years old man to be a bona fide criminal out here. That's a young man's mistake. At my age, I'm willing to suffer a little bit, go through the streets, eat some soup, and lay down somewhere in the streets. A youngin' ain't gonna do it. But when you get my age, you know, you ain't gonna put money and certain things you want at the top of your list. You're gonna put your well-being and your good karma at the top of your list. You're gonna put your freedom outside of prison at the top of your list. So in wisdom, you will suffer a little bit on the streets. Eat some soup and lay down somewhere. I'm too old to be a criminal in America. But I'm a soldier. And I'm too old not to be a soldier. I'm too old to be a criminal, and I'm too old to not be a soldier. And so are you. You too old not to be a soldier. You too smart, you too experienced with life, you know too much about what's going on and seeing everything going on. You understand human beings being down here so long. How you ain't a soldier yet? You ain't got to get the credibility or the voucher from the U.S. military to be a soldier. All you got to do is educate yourself. You ain't got to go specifically through the U.S. military to be a soldier. They will even tell you that. It's all about education. They just decide to, submit to the American military's objectives. That's basically what they're enlisting is. They want to serve in the U.S. military for their objectives, to serve their objectives. I'm still a soldier, but I don't serve the military, U.S. military objectives. It's all about education. You can go online and find out how to be a full soldier like you went through boot camp. You can do it physically. You can find out everything they do physically. You can do everything they do physically without actually joining the military. Do you realize that? All their training, all their education, learning how to shoot guns, learning how to hold arms, learning how to break them down, put them together in the dark, all that stuff. You can learn all of that stuff without joining the military. The internet gives you access to all information. It ain't secret information that you go through with boot camp. That ain't secret information. All their training is not secret information. You could go basically put yourself through boot camp. So you don't let nobody tell you you're not a soldier. You don't let nobody tell you you're not a soldier. You just don't you don't steal valor. There's a big difference. You don't steal valor. Stealing valor is saying that you did some tours that you didn't do. That you went to Vietnam and you didn't. That you served in the Korean War or Desert Storm War in Kuwait, but you didn't. You went to Afghanistan. That's the only thing that military has a problem with is stolen valor. Now, you can say you're a soldier in the front of a military. They can't try it out. You know, you might have some arrogant jerks that don't want to give it to you. But the average person that serves in the military is going to realize, the smart ones are going to say, well, it's just a matter of education. I can't take that from you. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know how you formed out here and how you got built out here. Who am I to say you're not a soldier? Who am I to say you can't survive? Because that's what being a soldier is about. Who am I to say you can't? You know, so if you're thinking, well, you know, I'm not really a soldier, it's because you don't got education. That's why. That's the only difference why you ain't a soldier. You can learn how to shoot arms. You can learn how to live off the land because 50% of being a soldier is also living off the land. After you defeat your enemies, how you going to survive in the wilderness? How you going to survive in the woods? So you can win physical wars, but the other part of being a soldier is, how can I survive in these woods? I got to eat the right things. I got to touch the right plants. I got to stay away from the wrong plants. I got to eat all kind of stuff I don't want to eat. And I got to still have good morale, right? Okay, so a soldier ain't just shooting around. A real soldier is also, how do I live geographically without a job, without any income? How do I survive? And that's what it's coming to, don't you see? See, so many people are built in the streets, on being a soldier physically with arms, but not physically to live off the land. They're not the other part of being a soldier. Many of these rappers are not built like that. They're not built to be soldiers in the woods, surviving off the land, that part. So you got half of Americans that are just arms. You're an armed soldier, but when it comes to after you defeat your enemies, you might have to live in the wilderness. You might have to live in poverty. You might have to live with nothing. How will you survive if you have not been taught properly? So I challenge you, all that's listening, to go educate yourself on edible plants, edible flowers, edible nuts that you can eat, stuff that you overlooked, like acorns. You can eat acorns, daisies, different stuff like that. You can eat daisies. It's a lot of stuff you can eat that you overlooked. You didn't know it was edible. You wouldn't even think to eat it, right? And you'll find patches of that throughout the wilderness, in the woods. So if you want to be the full soldier, you learn to live off the land. You learn to live eating off of vegetation and nuts and tree nuts. Okay? That's how you learn to survive, right? Many of you cannot be influenced by this docile homosexual American community. It's time to learn to be soldiers. It's time to learn. It's time to learn to be the other part of being a soldier, which is to survive poverty, survive off the land, survive and eat whatever you got to eat in the woods, in eating vegetation, certain plants, without cooking it up, spicing it and jazzing it up, eating it right there, then and there. You'll never let nobody tell you can't be a soldier. How you gonna say that? Now, when it comes to tours, doing tours, see, this is the part of the education that the Americans don't want you to know. Ask yourself why military is never good to do. Most of them are not well off. Why is most military on the streets? Because they know too much. Most military know too much. You tell me why half of the military is on the streets after they do tours? Because they're too dangerous to have money. They're educated. They know what this country do. So what they do, they got to dump them off in poverty and have them bamboozled and razzle-dazzled and bewildered by poverty, so they can't even focus on doing anything, being no threat against America. I truly believe that. You explain to me why half of these military is on the streets, which you should be promised a place to live if you do any tours in America. Even if it's an apartment, even if it's an apartment that's worth $300, at least you off the streets if you do a tour. How can this government allow any person that done tours to be on the streets? But they got all this other money. They got billions of dollars. They give out food stamps to lazy people, worthless people. White, black, and everything in between, getting food stamps, and losers. Hateful people, gang stalkers. Food stamps given to gang stalkers, and they can't help military that serve tours. That's something wrong with that. And I think what's wrong with it is they want to make sure, they want to neutralize them, no pun intended. They want to neutralize them as a threat to the American community. Think about it. You done been all throughout the military as a veteran. You know all about what this country is about. You know all the logistics of this country. You know the wiring of this country. Imagine you become rich. You could be your own mastermind. So that's why I think half of the military is on the streets, because they want to neutralize you as a threat. It could even be an intellectual threat like me. You know a lot. You know a lot. So then what they gonna do to somebody that know a lot? They gonna dump them off on the streets so they are bewildered by the weather and their poverty condition. You can't think about nothing but surviving. You're preoccupied with surviving. You're preoccupied with surviving. You ain't got time to think about what America's doing. You ain't got time to even watch the news, many of you veterans. All you do is watch the most important news. That's all you do. See, I done been around real military. Listen, people treat you like you 19, like I'm 16 or something. I done been around real military, people that done real tours. I done looked in their face. I done chilled with them. I done hung with them. I gotta say that for my viewers. I gotta say that for these enemies out here who think I'm a toy soldier. I done been around real military. I already done popped that cherry. Well, I done been around real people that done real tours and killed real people in real wars. That already came. That time has already came. I already done popped that cherry. Our objective as spiritual warriors is this. We fast and we give spiritual offerings to churches that's non-denominational outside of America for escalation of wars concerning the Americans. We want extreme, severe escalation of wars concerning the Americans, but we doing it all by spiritual means. This is why the FBI and the CIA can't say nothing about me. Listen, man, listen. You can't approach nobody like me. Because the first thing I'm going to say, I don't have any physical operations. So then that's the bottom line. I don't have no worldviews of doing any physical operations. It ain't in the back of my mind or my subconscious to do any physical operations against what you call America. We have enemies here, right? But unfortunately, many of you have joined these enemies here, and we know that part too, don't we? So what we're doing is using spiritual weapons, expecting God to bring severe escalation against the Americans. And that's our plan and objective, and ain't nothing you can do about it. You can hate us, and you're going to hate us. You probably are going to hate us. We expect that. But it's nothing you can do about it. As long as I don't have physical operations, people gonna laugh you to a scorn in other countries that you playing around a person that's fasting. He's abstaining from food and giving offerings to churches. They gonna laugh you to a scorn when you look at me as a threat. Because we know that's what you're scared of. That's why all my viewers, man, all my subscribers, I want you to understand something. From my general perspective, I'm an A-star general. Why am I an A-star general? George Washington was a 7-star general. Oh, you can laugh. I'm going to tell you why. You can laugh. I'm going to tell you why. Because I have done the equivalent, and I guarantee you military would agree with me. I have done in the United States of America, on this land, the equivalent of a tour, of many tours, dealing with guerrilla warfare from state to state. You didn't think I was going to get that? You didn't think I was going to get the acknowledgement of a soldier? When I had to deal with guerrilla warfare from California to New York to North Carolina and to Florida, where I was walking on foot from Florida to Georgia, I literally walked from Florida to Georgia on foot, from Daytona, Florida to Kingsland, Georgia. And you think I ain't gonna be seen like a soldier? I've had a military personnel that went through the military. I think he was Navy. He told me, "You're a soldier. I see a soldier." When he looked at me, he said, "I see a soldier." Listen, I already done got vouchers and cosigns. Imagine me worried about what these ratchet people on the streets think about me. I done had military call me a soldier. What else I need? That's why I move like this. That's why I talk like this. I don't need the streets no more. That's why I'm telling you, listen, I don't need them no more. As a matter of fact, y'all played in my face. Y'all was a part of the big politics of this whole situation. Yes, you was. So why would I feel the need to need you? Why would I care about your opinion when you was a clown at street culture and community, hip-hop culture, all out here playing in my face? Acting like I was a sex predator and I got a child in the world that's 19 years old. I've been married on paper down in Florida, and imagine me esteeming you as, in your opinion, as something worthwhile for me to listen to. You flattered yourself. I don't care nothing about no street culture and hip hop culture. That's for them kids and teenagers. I don't care nothing about that. I'm too grown to care something about it. I'm too turned out on these soldiers and military and real war and doing the equivalent of tours in America to care about what the ghetto and the streets and gangsters and thugs think. I'd have been around soldiers. You know what's harder than a thug? A soldier. For short. You know what's harder than gangsters? Soldiers. For short. Going through precise boot camp where you know everybody that passed through there is tough. You know that everybody that went through that, you listen, half of these gangsters and thugs, you got to sit down and listen to them to know what they even went through. You gotta go through that with a fine-tooth comb before you say they thugs and gangsters. You got military, listen, you know for sure he done went through boot camp. Every last one of them. You know that he built the last. You know he tough. When somebody like that call you a soldier, you think I'm going to take that lightly? See, if it was you, you'd be the same way if you was me. You would be the same way if you was getting cosigns by soldiers. That's what I'm saying. That's why I got to stand on my own, about my own perspective of myself. Because only you know what you've been around. Your family don't even know you've been around real soldiers. I'm a whole different animal. It is what it is. But I ain't no threat, and I ain't no harm, and I ain't no danger to people that don't play with me. As long as you don't play with me, I ain't no threat to you, and I ain't no danger to you. But if you think you want to show me how tough you are and show me how cool you are, that's when you're going to get in the problem with God. And that's what you've been doing. And you don't think I'm smart enough to know that. Now, if you want to play in my face, then what you expect me to do? If people playing in your face, for viewers, for subscribers, if people playing in your face, what they expect you to do? You're going to go to the Bible and show them where there was real wars in the Bible. Now, in order for there to be a real war, according to God's kingdom and spiritual war, even though right now in this season we are using spiritual weapons, but we're beyond, but we graduated just using spiritual weapons to demonic spirits. We have now graduated and understood that we can use spiritual weapons against human beings. We done graduated, right? Okay, throw your hat up. You done graduated, throw the hat up. You got your gown on, throw your hat up. I'm throw my hat up, yeah. I couldn't resist that one. Listen, man, you done graduated. You ain't like these amateurs out here that don't know they got spiritual weapons they can use against human beings. But in this season, all we doing is using fasting and giving offerings, and our spiritual weapons we're using, including intellectual property and information concerning the Americans, them marrying children. While they was calling us sex predators, we gonna use that information as a weapon as well, of them marrying children in 33 states. That's it right there. That's 7 out. We gonna use that weapon too. We gonna use every weapon we can against these Americans. But by spiritual weapons we're using against the Americans, and intellectual property and information. We're crafting on the divine side intellectual property against the Americans. That's right. We're pointing our weapons, although we are not in a season of using any physical arms against the Americans. Not at grocery stores, not at malls, not at stores, bodegas, and corner stores. We're not using any physical weapons against any American citizens. Right? That's crystal clear, right? Okay. So nobody should assume that when I've said that out of my mouth. And the real reason why you shouldn't assume it, because we're doing too good spiritually. If it ain't broke, I ain't gonna fix it. We doing so good spiritually. Can you imagine me going out here randomly? I mean, just as far as objective, thinking I'm doing something. Can you imagine me going out here and randomly doing something? That's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket compared to what we doing. We're on the brink of new tariffs and problems between America and Canada. Everything is going good. See, now American enemies, the spiritual warriors, can come out and talk in broad day and they can't do nothing about it. See, they're not used to it. They're not used to a real enemy that they can do nothing about. And guess who that's most likely going to be? God's people. You know why? Because we're refined. We ain't going to make no mistakes. And guess what? Foundationally, we going to be doing everything by spiritual means, and God is going to be doing everything. How they going to raid us? How they going to do something against us? And then when they find out, when the real honorable Americans find out what it's all about, they going to realize, oh no, we wronged that person. That's another reason they ain't doing nothing to me. You know why they ain't doing nothing to me? Because they found out what it's all about. They found out what it's all about. See, Sun Tzu taught this in The Art of War. Sun Tzu taught, you fight, even, and I'm paraphrasing, even if your government and community doesn't want you to fight. You fight if you can win, even if your government and community don't want you to fight. Sun Tzu also taught, you do not fight if you cannot win, even at your community and government's bidding. You do not fight God's people, and you know you can't win, even though your community and your government wants you to. That's for the gang stalkers. That's how we know you don't follow the art of war. Because by now, if you was a student of Sun Tzu like I am, I'm telling you to listen. I am a student of Sun Tzu, right? Bona fide. That's why I can just tell you the information, because it's in my soul, right? How we know these gang stalkers is not students of Sun Tzu, because you would realize that you can't win against God's people. And that now, right now, even if the black community and the hip-hop community and all these Hispanic and Latino community people and the government and all these other butthurt people, even if they want you to fight, you realize you can't win, you will not fight at their bidding. Even if they want you to. Even if they paying you, you know you can't win. See, if you follow the art of war, you would have been stopped. That's how we know you clowns. Because actually, everybody told you to stop, didn't they? Actually, America told the gang stalkers to stop. Oh, see, for targeted individuals. No, listen, let me slow down. Because I'm going to show you the difference. And I say this respectfully from other people who do messages on gang stalkers. I'm going to show you the real spiritual condition that no one else could have possibly known, but if they were spiritual or they were prophets about this gang stalking situation. Okay, the condition of the battlefield is this concerning these gang stalkers. They're suicidal. That's number one. Most of them want to die. The people that's out here gang stalking everybody, like you and me. The condition of the average gang stalker is suicide. The reason why they are suicidal is because they know that the community is defeated. They know that it's a point of no return. They went too far. Okay? This is what you notice nobody else is talking about. I could have been talking about this in plain sight. I could have been talked about it. They're suicidal because they know America is never going to be the same. They want to kill themselves. They hate themselves. They say it all the time. They hate themselves. They want to kill themselves, but they ain't man or woman enough to do it. For high-ranking people like me, they want to join to my cause, the gang stalkers. The same people gang stalking me and you, now that they see it my way and they hear this information, now these same gang stalkers that have gang stalked me and you for years, now they want to join the prophet. I'm just telling you the truth. Now they want me to be their leader. Now they're telling me my destiny is the Illuminati. They telling me my destiny is Illuminati. Why? Because I got the goods? As a student of Sun Tzu, let me teach you something. Just because, and I know American culture did this to you, where you think that just because somebody is talented, they supposed to be on your side. But as a student of Sun Tzu, let me teach you something. Just because your enemy has goods and talents, and maybe you have goods and talents at the top of your value system, as far as how you value people and how you value situations. Even with that being said, your enemies can have all the talents and goods, and they're not going to be on your side. They could be tougher than you, more informed than you, more educated, and they're not going to join you because in your value system, you want to surround yourself with intelligent, talented people. I mean, I'm guessing that's what it's subject to. I'm guessing this is what forms this. But whatever the case may be, just because you see that I'm talented, or I got gifts, spiritual gifts, intellectual property, just because you see my potential does not mean my destiny is Illuminati. Okay? This is what they've been saying to me. The Illuminati has been gang stalking all the Christian famous churches, all the well-known, notable churches and prominent churches in America. If you go to a famous church, they have been gang stalking. If you go to a famous church in Charlotte or New York or Miami or Atlanta, I want you to pay attention. LA and all these major cities, Chicago and St. Louis and Detroit, whatever church you go to, if it's prominent, I guarantee you they're gang stalking that church. Their objective became to gang stalk all the famous prominent Christians. All of them. Every Christian community in your neighborhood. If you're a high-ranking target, most likely in your neighborhood, you being a high-ranking target, they're gang stalking the Pacific Church in your neighborhood, outside of your neighborhood, near your house. I guarantee you that church is being gang stalked. I've just followed this. I know what I'm talking about. It's been years and years of experience for me to know how these people think. So now I can follow how they think. See, Sun Tzu taught this in The Art of War. If I know my enemies and I know myself, I need not to fear the outcome of 100 battles. But if I know my enemies, or I know myself, or half of that, then I succumb half the time. If I know, and I'm pretty sure that's what it says, if I don't know my enemies and I don't know myself, I will succumb every time in war. I've learned these people, they gang stalk Christians. They gang stalk famous Christians. Anybody with notoriety. If you are a Christian and you do Christian messages, right? If you are just a YouTuber and you got over a couple thousand subscribers, I guarantee you they're trying to gang stalk you right now in this season. I ain't talking about 5 years ago. I'm talking about now. They're gang stalking everybody that's Christian with a handful of subscribers, or got good intellectual property, or that you're in a circle with somebody that's high ranking, and therefore they're gang stalking you because of who you're affiliated with. Like anybody affiliated with me, you might notice strange things going on in your life since you met me. And the reason why is because my enemies are gang stalking everyone I know, everyone I esteem as special, or that I love, or I esteem as my loved ones. If you are going through, and this includes family, if you are going through anything strange, it's because you're being gang stalked. This is why we have to get on the same perspective. We got to get on the same accord that these people have to suffer. Now, how can they suffer? Well, I've been in this war room for a while, quite some time. I'm going to tell you how we can get these people to go in the opposite direction of us and go in the opposite direction of what we're doing. How we going to do it is these systems of America have to be shut down by God. This is what it came to. There's no more 20, 50, 30 years of America. Scratch that. The spiritual elite, real Holy Ghost filled, real righteous soldiers have come to terms with the fact that this country, its systems must be shut down from extreme gang stalking. Just that alone. Gang stalking Christian leaders and Christian community. Christian rappers being gang stalked and you ain't talking about it. Won't you talk about it in your raps? Won't you tell the truth? No pun intended. You already rapping the truth. Won't you go ahead and tell the full truth? Won't you go ahead and tell people that you being gang stalked? Oh, or you're one of those Christians that feel like you rather not talk about it so you won't continue the problem or speak the problem. Won't you tell people so they won't feel alone? If you're a Christian rapper, won't you use your platform to talk about gang stalking? Because I know you're going through it. I know you're going through it because I know how these people think. And they gonna gang stalk every single Christian they can find that's worth something, that's famous, that's out here in the community. The condition of the battlefield is that these people are now, the good news is they're suicidal. They know they've wronged us. They know they done wrong. They want to halfway join high-ranking Christians. They feel that it's over. They're still attacking us. They're using YouTube ads. They're using Facebook ads. They're using Facebook against you on your timeline. They're using YouTube ads. You notice all that little psychological stuff? That's all them. You watch movies in the pop-up ads while you're watching certain movies. If you're on YouTube, you notice the pop-up ads always seem like an attack against your mind. Did you notice the pop-up ads and the ads on YouTube and Facebook and all these other places got children and all this other stuff like it's popping up against you? You notice when you watch regular TV, the commercials seem like psychological attacks of some form of fashion, where it's attacking your morality or attacking your mind and how you think, or to try to question how you think or try to challenge how you think. You notice that happens all the time to you? Because that's the condition of the battlefield. The gang stalkers are using the whole culture against us. Wake up. You think you're woke, right? Okay, this is woke. You want me to tell you what woke is? This is a very important part of the battlefield. The condition of the battlefield. They are using the culture against Christians. Which means somehow they can go into your phone and go and turn off your phone. You notice your phone turns off, or it drops an ad out of nowhere at a certain time, and it's like a psychological attack against you at that certain time. That's all because they have begun to utilize the culture, utilize YouTube, social medias, all the internet against Christians and high-ranking targets and people that's being gang stalked. They're using all your phone against you, your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, all that stuff. Okay? That's the condition. They're following you around in cars. They doing that too. If you notice hordes of cars, we call them car convoys. Look up gang stalking car convoys, where they're gang stalking you in cars and hordes of cars that's riding by and it don't look normal. See, God began to open my eyes up as a prophet and my ears up as a prophet, and he showed me these cars riding by and it wasn't normal. I'm not a paranoid person naturally, but am I perfect? No. I mean, we've all showed signs of being paranoid in our life, but it's nothing consistent where I've been really a paranoid person. Not consistently, right? But we all been paranoid at some point of our life, right? Right. So it's not based on paranoia. This is based on me watching this over and over again in different cities. They use car convoys, cars in military. This is the condition of the battlefield. This is still the condition of the battlefield. This is the most important part. So you are on point. You realize all these cars that's riding past you and you being gang stalked, all of them are agents that's trying to trigger your mind while you're walking down the street, while you're walking in stores, when you come out of stores, when you're walking on sidewalks. They trying to trigger you. Ultimately, they want you. You know what their main goal is? Ultimately, they want you to be suicidal. If you didn't know and you're wondering, well, why wouldn't they just kill me? Because they want you to kill yourself. That's the ideal goal is for them. That's why you got to have your mind. You got to say to your mind, I got an iron mind, an iron heart, and an iron soul. Right? I want to give you the best information I can. And ultimately, I'm going to do that. They're trying to make you commit suicide. That's why you got to watch your morale. You got to watch your behavior. You got to take your vitamins. You got to take magnesium oxide. That helps your behavior. B12. If you're a woman, every woman should be taking B12. For all my women that's listening to me, if you're being gang-stalked, it's no reason that you shouldn't have B12. You got to go get B12. That's the best vitamin for a woman. Is B12, in my opinion. Look up all the attributes of B12 for women. For all my women subscribers. Because women have been supporting me on here. Right? For all my women subscribers, go get you some B12. Listen, I guarantee you're going to feel way better. Because God made women the caretakers of the community of the earth. So God gave you more attentiveness to all things and everything. With that, if not careful, you will become full of anxiety and worry because God made you to pay attention to things that men don't pay attention to. Being a caretaker gonna pay attention to everything. To caretake properly, you got to pay attention to all things and details and everything and things ahead and everything like that. That's how women are built. Being that way, being that you're built as caretakers, intellectually, mentally, psychologically, you're built, even if you don't got no kids, you're still built as a caretaker. And that may be a caretaker for the world, the things going on in the government, military, etc., right? You have to take B12 and magnesium to get that caretaking energy to flow right. For men, you need to take a Centrum vitamin. I advise you to take testosterone pills in this spiritual war so that you are the masculine soldier that you need to be. If you can afford to get testosterone pills at Walgreens, CVS, testosterone supplements, it don't mean something wrong with you. All you're getting is a good dose of testosterone, and that's going to strengthen your masculinity through this spiritual war. This is how I would train all my soldiers. You get vitamins and testosterone. For women, you get multivitamins, the same thing. You get Centrum for women, and you get B12 and magnesium. And the soldiers get magnesium too. Testosterone, magnesium, and the vitamin, Central vitamin, multivitamin. For women, magnesium, the multivitamin for women, Centrum, and B12. This is how you train up soldiers. You can't be walking around on fumes, not taking no vitamins and fighting wars and fighting this enemy and fighting gang stalkers and everything. You got to be primed up. You got to be ready. It's not just eating a good meal. You got to be primed up. You got to get all the vitamins you need. You're supposed to be like this every day. God designed you to have all your vitamins every day, so you're not going to be your best in this spiritual war if you ain't got no vitamins. You ain't going to be your absolute best. We're not doing this to be cute. We're not doing this to say, look at me, I'm taking vitamins. We're doing this to be our optimum best in spiritual warfare. We're not doing this to say, well, look at me, I'm being healthy. Let's not be simple-minded. We're doing this for women to be in the right mood and behavior. You take B12. From this moment forward, all women that's involved in my life, I'm always going to tell them to take B12. You need B12. You're a natural caretakers. You're going to go through all type of stuff where you have anxiety and worries. And in order to really strengthen yourself past that, you have to take B12. For men to consider yourself ladies men, well, listen. The first thing you should educate a woman on is taking a B12 vitamin. If you're gonna be around her. That's not a sexist joke. That's just a funny joke. Teach your woman to take a B12 vitamin so she can deal with these gang stalkers, and magnesium and a multivitamin. These are things that you have to take. These are things, if you're not fasting, see, when I'm fasting, I'm in the spirit anyway without a vitamin, you know. But if you're not fasting, you always try to make your way back in your normal life back to magnesium oxide. You look on the back of the ingredients, it's going to be magnesium oxide. Don't get no other type of magnesium until you do the research and make sure everything's good, right? But you get, I mean, ultimately it's all going to be good, but the one I'm telling you to take in good dosages of it is magnesium oxide. That alone, that's the only thing it is. It's going to be other little stuff to, you know, for the pill itself or the supplement itself, which has nothing to do with the overall ingredients of it. You know what I mean? Like the dye or something like that. Of course, that's going to be in there, but the main active ingredient should be magnesium, especially when it comes to magnesium, is plain magnesium oxide, right? That's it. That's what you need to take every day. And I guarantee you, years later, you would thank me. I've been taking off and on magnesium for 15 years. Okay? I've been taking it for 15 years. Basically, it's like eating 8 steaks a day. Something like that. Well, way more than that, actually. It's like eating a whole bunch of steaks a day, right? You eating a whole bunch of steaks a day. You can't do it naturally. But you're getting the strength of a man that would eat a whole bunch of steaks with one supplement. With a couple supplements, you're eating like a whole bunch of steaks. I never stop preaching magnesium. Magnesium is the super vitamin. It's the super vitamin. If you don't get no other vitamin, and you can only choose between one or two, you only can get one. I would probably get the multivitamin. Secondly, I would probably get the magnesium. But depending on what situation I'm in, if it's a very tedious situation, intellectually, mentally, psychologically, I probably would get to go ahead and get the magnesium vitamin. This is what people didn't realize I was on this whole time. I've been taking my vitamins this whole time. That's why I look young. That's why I look preserved. And people acting like something's strong with you, like you're autistic. You know, when you're autistic, when you look young, they think you're autistic or something, like something off about you. Are you special needs? No, people wasn't paying attention. I ate right and I took my vitamins all my life. That's what I did. And this is the result. I look young. I took my vitamins, and people didn't pay attention to that. People did not pay attention. This is why I cannot stress enough to take your vitamins while you're young. I was taking my vitamins in my 20s. Consistently. I was taking my vitamins in my 20s. I never stopped taking vitamins throughout my life. And this is the result. I'm in pretty decent health. My health is pretty decent. My body, bounces back from most things very good. You know, my face, my appearance, it's all because I take vitamins. But back to the condition of this battlefield. They're using witchcraft. They're using car convoys. They're using telepaths in public, telepaths around where you live. They will follow you from different places where you've lived to another place if you decide to leave, if you're a high-ranking target. See, high-ranking targets get treated a little differently. You get the extreme pressure. They're going to put people all around you. They're going to try to infiltrate your family. They're going to try to infiltrate your neighborhood, infiltrate your community against you. They're going to infiltrate your grocery store. If you're high-ranking, your phone place you at, they're going to connect a whole network against you. See, they're all bent on recruiting people. Recruiting. But now that they realize that the system is in trouble, these systems are in danger of being shut down, now they're suicidal because they know it's a lost cause either way it go. It ain't gonna be nothing but the mark of the beast pretty soon, which means it ain't gonna be no normal world anymore. It's gonna be 7 years after the mark of the beast, and it's gonna be all over for the whole end of the world. That's what we believe as Christians. It's gonna be 7 years after the mark of the beast. Everybody know what I'm talking about, right? And after that, it's the end of the world. So you can see, if you got spiritual eyes, that basically it's not much more world outside of the mark of the beast that's coming. If you got your spiritual senses, you can see it ain't much world gonna happen. And I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not Nostradamus, right? I am not Nostradamus, right? Nostradamus. I ain't said his name in a while. But at the top of the millennium, the year 2000, and I'm being transparent, I looked way ahead. This was before 9/11 and all of that. It wasn't really nothing bad going on in the year 2000. The year 2000 was a pretty decent year, actually, for most Americans. A pretty decent year. I mean, nothing happened bad. That year, I looked way ahead. I can remember when I actually said it or thought about it. I actually was doing community service for an old charge I had. An old criminal charge. I was at a park doing community service, but I was a Christian, you know. And I remember thinking about how long the world was gonna last from the year 2000. You know what year I thought about? This was just a thought. I'm not saying this is prophecy. My thought was looking at, you know how you gauge and estimate? I did that with time. I did that with all that's going on. The current world that we were at the year 2000. And I seen that basically I felt that the world is not going to go on past the year 2050. 2050. I at that time in the year 2000, I didn't see the world going past 2050, past the year 2050. Mind you, I hadn't even came to 2001, 2003, 10, 12, 2020. I ain't even think about none of them years. I just kind of estimated this in my mind based on all estimations of how things will become more evil, things will become more criminal, all those things in one, and you just kind of estimate everything. And I estimated that the world will probably go on to the year 2050. We halfway through. We on the other half of 2050. Being this year 2025, right? So we halfway through 50 years in the millennium. And look at it now. Can you see this world going on 25 more years, 24 more years? You can't. Think about it now. It's almost like every month is a battle. Every month. It's down to every month. And I think it's going to get down to every week. But right now it's down to every month is a war. It's like a war every month. Every month is like a battle. That's where it's at right now. And I don't think it's ever going to go back to where it's like every 3 months. See, it used to be about on the average, throughout the millennium, about every 3, 4, 5 months, about every 3 to 6 months, there was some type of battle culturally, or as far as collectively for us as a community. It's every month now. It's every month something catastrophic or something life-changing or something going on with this government or this community or stuff going on in the community and these people. It's every month now. Every month. And I think eventually it's going to get down to how we see things change every month. I think it's going to get down to every week. But I still kind of believe, in my personal opinion, I am not saying the Lord is going to come back in 2050. I'm not saying that. This is just my personal estimation that you can just consider that I don't think the world is going to get past about 2050, about 2050. Nah. Can you imagine 20 years without Trump and all these different other presidents and all these different other people? Trump can't live forever. For people who, even if he did a third term, Trump cannot live forever. That man is almost what? 80 something years old. He can't live forever. Trump can't even probably live for another 20 years. Have y'all thought about that? All y'all Trump supporters, have y'all thought that Trump probably can't even live another 20 years? He's 80 now. How he gonna live to 100? He already showing signs of wear and tear in his body. He's already showing signs of wear and tear. How he gonna make it to 100 like some people do? That ain't gonna be Trump. You got to remember, Trump is in his 80s. He could die any day. I'm just keeping it 100. He could die of natural causes. Have y'all considered, as Americans, Trump can just die of natural causes in his 80s? It happens all the time. People in their 80s die of natural causes all the time. You don't know why. It was no underlying reason. They just died of natural causes. People die of natural causes all the time. And when after your 80s is around them times when you can start expecting people to start dying from natural causes. That's what they call it. Like their body just shut down. They was just dead. It just shut down. Wasn't nothing wrong with them really, Their body just shut down. Trump is at that age where his body can just shut down without any explanation or underlying reasons that it did. Let alone living for another 20 years. Trump ain't gonna live for another 20 years. What would it be in 20 years? 2046. Trump ain't gonna make it to 2050. No, he not. So you see what I'm saying? It still lines up. Trump could be the president, let's say for some historical reason, diabolical historical reason. Y'all keep him in there for another 20 years. Trump can't live for another 20 years. So you see where we at. Ultimately, you got to prepare for the future. That's what soldiers gonna do, where Trump ain't gonna live for another 20 years, man. Nope. You think Trump gonna live to 100 and something? No. He eat McDonald's. Look at his diet. He eat McDonald's all the time. Everybody know that about Trump. Eating that fast food all the time. You think ain't nobody like that gonna live, man. Listen, when you start getting up in your 80s, all of that stuff matters. Your diet matters more than anything else. Well, almost. It's one of the most primary things that dictates how long you're gonna live. You could have the least bad diet, right? The least of it, right? The least bad diet, and they still die. And when you get in your 80s, you gotta be sensitive to like everything you do. Literally, man. You can't even have a whole bunch of stress in your 80s. Look at the stress he under. Almost being killed and everything. He can't listen. I'm just trying to show you. I'm pretty sure he come to terms with it himself. Trump can't live for another 20 years. So what is America gonna be in 2050? Or let's just say 2047. 2047. That's still 3 years before 2050, right? Who's going to be in office after that? That could tear up this country, or now America's enemies now rise up against her in 2047, which could end the world less than 3 years shy of 2050, which would still put me in accuracy of this country not going on, this world not going on past 2050. Trump ain't gonna be in there no longer than 2046, which is 4 more years for all hell to break loose, to the point where we won't make it to 2050 or past 2050. That's 7 hour. Glory to Yahweh. Amen. I'm just trying to prepare y'all, man. Real talk. I'm just trying to prepare y'all. Trump might get a 3rd term from, all the, how people think, the desperation, because I don't know if y'all see it for what it is. Trump has made such a trailblazing path that no average politician can fill his shoes and do what he's doing. That's the bad part about it. The bad part about it is nobody's going to be able to fill the shoes of Trump and do what he do. So then it's going to be like a plateau. After being on a mountain, it's going to go way down to this plateau, political plateau, as far as activity, political activity, wars, response to financial things, tariffs and everything. It's going to be like this big plateau after Trump. This probably be boring. Politics probably be boring. Can you imagine? If Trump gets another 3rd term, they got to recreate the whole presidential situation to make him last long enough to protect America, which is going to be, he going to need more than another term and another term. Basically, everybody's just waiting for Trump and his level of caliber to cease before they attack America. Basically, he got to be in there to the end of the world, because once he gets out, that's when all hell gonna break loose. Because all the enemies that know Trump is gonna attack them. Why would a terrorist attack right now? A terrorist is not gonna attack right now because Trump is gonna send all hell against terrorists. A country ain't gonna attack America right now because Trump himself is gonna send all hell against whoever attacking America. So basically, everybody gonna wait him out. All his real enemies are gonna wait him out. All the enemies that want to physically attack America is gonna wait him out, right? And eventually, that time has to come. And when it does, that's when America gonna have its most dangerous and darkest time that they have ever seen in their history. That's what I personally believe. All people doing is waiting out Trump. They can't attack America right now because, militarily speaking, who would do that? It's suicide. You already see the chess moves Trump makes. He comes finding all his enemies anywhere they are in the world. Who would use their forces and manpower against Trump right now, and he gonna come and weed out all your forces? No military strategist would do that. So the better strategy is to wait him out. He ain't got number 3 more years. Technically, he gets out in 2029, right? January 20th, right? Okay, that's 2 years and some change. Trump gonna be out of office 2 years and some change if he don't get a 3rd term. That ain't a long time. Mind you, in some people's opinion, he tearing up the country. Meanwhile, while waiting for him to get out of office. So, everybody just waiting out Trump. After that, all America enemies is gonna rise up like you've never seen it before in your life, man. If I'm thinking this, you think nobody else ain't thinking about it? They just gonna wait Trump out because he's so heavy-handed with his chess moves of war. Who is gonna attack America right now? You got to play chess. You got to play chess with Trump. You can't physically attack him with war. You got to play chess. You got to find ways to play chess. That's what you got to do. Outside of physical war. That's all you can do. You got to make him incriminate himself based on his policies and everything he's doing. That's the best strategy against Trump is to make him incriminate himself to the Americans with how he doing things in the world, and that's the best chess moves you can make. Let him incriminate himself. He already at a 33% of approval rating. 33% approval rating. Come on. That's nothing. That's not even half at this point. Because I told y'all before, Trump is not a politician. He's not a politician. So he would do what me and you would do. We get American power. We just gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna be heavy-handed. Me and you will be heavy-handed, and Trump is just like us. A politician knows how to play the game, unfortunately, in America. Where I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It's a sport, and if you watch them, they're very good at it. They just come in to maintain. They don't come in to change things. A politician's game is, I'm just maintaining, basically. I'm not trying to change America. I'm not trying to change the world. Most politicians, that's how they built. They play the sport of politics. They play the sport of politics. That's all they do. They're not trying to change the community and change the world and go fight everybody like Trump. But me and you would do the same thing. Let's keep it real. That's why I'm trying to show you. Trump is not a politician. He's not a politician. He's not built like a politician. Most politicians are, they're built to play the sport of politics. Biden is a perfect example. They're built to play the sports of politics. They learn how to play the game. They learn what to do and not do over years and years and years. And so by the time they become president, if they've been senators, they already know how to play the game. They don't watch other people. They know what moves to make, right? And get out of office and get career. It's a career to some people. That's how you got to look at it too. It's a career to some people. It's another notch in their portfolio. It's something notable in their portfolio. And a lot of people thought Trump did it for that reason, to make something notable in his portfolio. But you see how heavy-handed he is. You see how heavy-handed he is, and it's refreshing to a lot of people. Whether you like it or not, people find it refreshing to see a president do stuff. Life-changing stuff, like fighting wars and going here and going there. And really, that's why people like him a lot, because he's doing something. After so many people playing political sports, I'm just giving you the real. I'm just giving you the real. Whether we like him or not, I'm just giving you the real. A lot of people like him because he actually doing stuff. You got to learn to speak the truth unbiasedly, even towards your enemies and even towards Americans. You got to speak unbiasedly. Meaning, I ain't gonna hold back the truth if it's real, if it's true about my enemies, even if it's true, even if it works to their defense or make them look good. You got to tell the truth. That way, you don't blind yourself as a soldier. A soldier never hides good things about their enemies, or their strengths of their enemies, or things that's perceived as strengths of their enemies. Trump is liked because he does stuff. It's refreshing to see people do stuff, to see stuff being done. People who America esteemed as enemies and foes for a long time, he fighting them. He fighting Iran. He fighting all kind of people that other people wouldn't fight. Other politicians wouldn't dare fight them type of wars. No, Biden would never fight a war against Iran. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He would not. He wouldn't. He ain't gonna fight no war against Iran. Can you imagine that? And look, that's what you got to look forward to. If this war is not wrapped up in the next 2 years and some change, You got to look forward to some political docile bum that comes in and plays the political game. You see the trouble. The trouble is really after Trump. Long as Trump is in office, it's going to be heavy-handed blow, heavy-handed blow. No matter what you think about him, it's going to be heavy-handed blow. He going to utilize American strength over and over again. You ain't going to really see the Americans really fall off and unless Trump incriminate himself. Unless somebody get through and something detrimental happen in the middle of him being heavy-handed. That too. You know, you ain't gonna really see this stuff fall off. You ain't gonna really see it fall and crumble like that. That's why everybody's just, you know, if you in the hood and you're a righteous African, you're a righteous brother, you know, this is the time to just chill and lay back and fall back off the community and just lay low and chill. And endure this present administration. It ain't time to be all out here in the streets and all. It's a Trump administration. It's a Republican administration. While we like it, while some people like what they doing and they heavy-handed with things they do, we still know that the Republican Party is still kind of racist. So we got to look at it beyond Trump. This is still a Republican Party administration. This is still a Republican Party time and era that we in, right? And we can go back in the past and talk about how the Republicans actually saved the slaves in Abraham Lincoln. We could talk about that. But ultimately, man, over time, these Republicans became racist, and I'm pretty sure everybody know that. Basically everybody know that the Republicans are with the racist white people are with the Republicans. And everybody that's non-white is with the Democrats. That's the average situation. We talking about the average situation. That's how it's been for X amount of time. For X amount of time, racist people gravitate towards Republicans. Non-racist people gravitate towards Democrat. That's how it's been. But now, because of this situation with the illegal migrants, no one no longer trusts the Democrats to handle the problem. That's a bad situation because now the Republicans probably are not, the Democrats are not going to get back in office. They're not going to get back in office, no. Because no one trusts them to handle the illegal migrants. And these wars that's going on too. Trump set up such a heavy-handed, trailblazing path that it's gotta be a Republican that do something about this. It's gotta be. A Democrat ain't gonna be able to follow that same path like Trump did. No, they don't have the same worldviews. The Democrats don't have the same worldviews to do anything near what Trump is doing. Whether you think that's influenced by him being a Republican or him being Trump on his own, a Democrat do not have those same thought patterns and worldviews as Trump or the Republicans to fill the shoes of going and fighting these wars, handling these tariffs properly, handling these things that's going on with illegal migrants. They ain't gonna be able to fill them shoes and do it like it need to be done. So basically, most Americans feel that way, which means the next president ultimately is still gonna be a Republican. If America know what's good for them. You'll be crazy trying to put a Democrat in there based on what? Race relations, how black people are treated. You got way more other wars to fight than to worry about equality. Equality is not one of the primary things to even worry about right now. Not to me. You got wars on the horizon. You got tariffs that Trump has initiated against all. You need a Democrat is gonna come and play a sport with most of this stuff. They not gonna be heavy-handed. That's facts, right? We can at least agree that most Democrats are not gonna be heavy-handed as Trump. Not with their politics, not with their wars, not with their execution of wars in politics. You cannot trust no Democrat in office. I don't know when. Let's just say right now, indefinitely. You cannot trust no Democrat in office right now. And that's coming from me, a black man. I'm telling you how it is. Even though I don't agree with no Republican, right? Cause I know they worldviews ain't gonna really line up with black people. No, it ain't. We could talk about the history of what they did for black people, but right now, they worldviews is what I look at. It ain't gonna line up. They don't want us to have no food stamps. Republicans feel like everybody should be working. You know who cut them food stamps? You know why it's cut? Because you in the Republican era. That's why. Democrats wouldn't have dared. If Kamala Harris was in office, you think food stamps would have been cut? No. Kamala Harris wouldn't have cut no food stamps. She wouldn't have allowed that. She wouldn't have allowed it, man. Trump, the Republican community, this is a perfect example. If you don't realize the worldviews of the Republicans feel like you should just be working. You're able-bodied, you should be working. Democrats feel that, well, even if you're not working, we want to take care of you as our citizens, which is reasonable. You could say both of them might go to the extreme. There's a balance, right? There's a balance, okay? But I think those two worldviews is kind of to the extreme, because Democrats would just take care of people. We just gonna take care of black people. We just gonna take care of Hispanic and Latino. We just gonna take care of non-white people, even if they don't want to work, even if they ain't no signs of working. See, Republicans is the ones that cut them food stamps that felt like all these people are too able-bodied to just be getting food stamps indefinitely, and don't got no plans of working. And we know us as our people. We know we rocked like that, including me. But I got my reasons. I'm in spiritual war with these Americans now. You can look at the past. You could talk about the past. But right now, I was getting food stamps and doing what I was doing like I was doing it because I'm in spiritual war against these Americans. Okay? Republicans want to cut the food stamps off totally. So eventually, this is what I personally believe. Those stamps, if the next Republicans that get in office, ultimately those stamps is coming down. Food stamps is going to be the first thing that we lose as Americans. Because they're going to just shave it off and feel like we don't really have to spend that money. They can just go work like they used to, like America used to. That's what's going to be their motto. America should go back to work like they used to. Everybody know they feel like food stamps enables the people, right? They already feel that way. Republicans feel that way the most strongly, more than Democrats. I feel, most people feel like just help people. You don't know what they're going through psychologically, geographically. This country is so toe up from all that it has done to black people and different other people. Then you just gotta consider that when you see people not doing nothing and they stuck on stupid or whatever. You gotta consider how much racism has been in this country, where people mind is shell shocked. People are psychologically traumatized. See, that's the issue we don't want to accept, is that through all the racism, collective non-white people became traumatized and PTSD and all kind of stuff. The way they set up America, that set us up for PTSD, all type of psychological sickness, where you just expect us to just run out and get another job. So then, see, that's the complexity of how Democrats think and I think. I'm not necessarily a Democrat or a Republican, but I feel like all the stuff that happened to all these people, all these experiments that we ain't know nothing about, I feel like you should just kind of give people help based on that. Based on all this stuff that has happened. This racism, these experiments, these attacks to black people, and how it affected them mentally. Because once you affected mentally, you ain't no good. So you can say America has affected these people mentally. Therefore, you can't expect them to do certain things like everybody else. So therefore, we sympathize and we just at least, at minimum, give you enough food to eat with food stamps. That's how I feel. And I also feel food stamps is karma for free labor and slavery in America. It's karma. Every man should be able to get paid for what he do, right? Our ancestors didn't. So food stamps is karma. In this country, it is. I know slavery been in every continent and all of that. I know slavery been everywhere. But here, we reason how we reason here, don't we? And ain't nobody gonna feel like that ain't karma for us to get these food stamps. So whether you agree with us or not, our ancestors worked for free. Why we can't have this food stamps for free? You could say it's a form of retribution. You could say it's a form of retribution. But the bottom line is, I feel it's deserved based on free labor and slavery. Now that's it for me. That's the nail in the coffin for that situation with the food stamps for me. But for the Republicans, they gonna shave off them food stamps eventually, man. I mean, prepare for it in the next 10 years. By 2036, they gonna shave off them food stamps. That's the first thing they gonna say. We don't really have to spend so much money on. That's the first thing they gonna say, that America should meet us halfway. They gonna say y'all should meet us halfway and just go work, instead of us having to spend money and you could just be working. Instead of us having to spend money out of our government, y'all could just be working. See, that's their logic, not considering what they have done to us as a community, how they set us up in situations. They don't consider that part. They look at us like we white folks, like y'all should just go to work. You don't realize we've been a big experiment in America. Traumatized, PTSD, all kind of stuff. That's why I'm gonna keep campaigning about mental sickness in the black community based on racism in the traps that America set us up in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you say we lazy, and half of it is mental sickness. Where they come from, the culture, how we talk from the culture, all the culture. It can mess up your mind to where you don't even want to do certain things. You don't want to work. You start getting tattoos all over your face. That's from the culture. That's from the culture, man. So, but ultimately that trickles back, that paper trail goes back to racism, traps that they put us in. That's why they can't complain about it now, because all you're looking at is the present day product or byproduct of all these traps and racism. That's all it is. And then therefore you should sympathize to a certain degree, at least to food stamps. Now, that's real. I think that should always be in place based on racism, based on all these experiments and everything they've done. Food stamps should always be in place based on that. You should never have these people out here struggling that you played with and played in our face and beat us down and everything. You should never have us to the point where we can't get no food stamps now. See, but somebody got to stand up and say it. Somebody got to stand up and say it, man. Yeah. But the Republicans, they going to look at it like you able-bodied. You can get up out your bed like I get up out of my bed. And you can go work like I do. Do I want to do it? No. But you could go do it like I do it. That's their reasoning. And there's nothing really wrong with that reasoning. But except that you don't consider other things. You don't consider what I just explained. All this racism, the mental sickness, all these traps that comes with all this stuff, and the way this has been set up to now the culture is just gone off, mentally, where, you can't stop it. It's a killing machine, but that killing machine started from basically how America set us up with the traps and everything and the racism. So you got to always acknowledge that beginning point. You got to always acknowledge and go back to it, no matter how much progression we make in other areas. You got to always go back to how this all started, for how everybody think now, which is going to lead you back to racism and all these traps that they set on us on purpose. That's why, therefore, there's always a liability. There's always, consideration. It's liabilities on their behalf. They set it up like this. And then when it got out of control, Then you want to say people should just go work. Come on, it don't work like that. Human nature, can we all agree human nature don't work like that? After we've been played with all this time, that we just gonna run to work? Listen, we can give the perfect answers, but let's be 100. As a collective community, we gonna just run to work after all this stuff going on and all these traps been set, and then the culture done changed, and now we in our own lane, just bugged out, just doing what we want to do, partying and don't care, and that, you know, partying indefinitely, getting high indefinitely, drinking indefinitely, getting drunk indefinitely. You know, look at how much stuff happened, including losing Malcolm X, MLK. We lost them, and then we just gave up. We just gave up as black people once they got killed. That was the beginning when we gave up. If you want to know what the beginning when we gave up, when Malcolm X and MLK died, that's when we gave up. That was awful, man. You think about good spirits like that, good people like that, dead, and if you don't know, they still could be alive. We done talked about them so much, we don't even realize they still could be, they was young enough to still be alive right now. They could still be alive. Malcolm X and MLK could still be commenting on all this stuff that's going on, the culture and all this foolishness and everything, this gang stalking. Malcolm X could be around right now. He wouldn't be 100 years old. That's all I'm talking about. He wouldn't be 100. He would not be 100, right? So Betty White was almost like, what, months away from 100? So then why couldn't Malcolm X be here and MLK be here if Betty White was almost months away from 100? They could have lived to now. And a lot of people don't realize that. You ain't going back and look at the dates to realize, oh, Malcolm X could still be alive. MLK could still be alive. We never recovered from our best leaders. We never did. Because every time from that point, what I believe is they wanted to make sure it would never be another Malcolm X or MLK. They wanted to make sure it would never happen. And so they just sent onslaughts of what I'm talking about, them traps, all this stuff going on, all this racism. To me, somebody had to say it ain't gonna never be another Malcolm X, it ain't gonna never be another MLK. How we gonna make that happen? We gonna send all these traps and all these different things and this oppression to make sure that anybody like that gets wiped out. And we almost always do. I almost got wiped out as far as my mentality. But now my head is on straight for the most part. So, you know, it's just, you know, we can see everything that's going on. It's just, how do we utilize it? How do we utilize what we know? What I just talked about. How do we utilize all of this information? That's where it gets tricky. Because I can share all this information and it's very good and great and it's all true, but how do we utilize this? That's what I believe in, utilizing, making things applicable. How do we make this applicable? And that's where it's challenging and most challenging. Because when we look at the state of the community and we look at the government and everything that's going on with the gang stalking and them playing with God's people, it ain't gonna be no chill from God's kingdom. It's no chill over here. That's why I'm fasting like now, like I'm fasting. It's no chill because it's based on all they done to me. It's based on all the Americans allowed to happen to me. I don't live the same experience as these famous black people. I live more closely to the lives of my ancestors. And I know for sure my grandmother, my family was in slavery because my grandmother told me that one of my great-great-great-grandmothers was raped in slavery. My grandmother told me that was born in South Carolina. My grandmother, I got South Carolina blood and North Carolina blood. I'm not just North Carolina, just in case you don't know. I got blood from South Carolina as well. That's why if you pay attention, I'm kind of more laid back than, because I'm influenced by my grandmother and she was from South Carolina. You might think, some people might think you're slow, even from North Carolina, because if you ain't been around really South Carolina people. And you know how long it took for me to realize that I was influenced by people from South Carolina, not North Carolina. It's a big difference. And we all know how South Carolina people move. It ain't slow, it's just a certain way they move as Southern people. Ain't nothing slow about them. But if you expect them to bounce around like North Carolina people or New York people, they ain't gonna move like that. But you can clearly see where I'm at intellectually. But my vibration is influenced by South Carolina, you know, not just North Carolina. And that needs to be considered. Heavily influenced by South Carolina vibration, you know, and you know, that's why I move the way I move, specifically me. You know, and my grandmother told me that one of my grandmothers was raped in slavery. So I know that for sure, that I'm a descendant of slavery. See, that's what many charlatans don't know. You know what I'm saying? I got South Carolina blood. My grandmother was born in Lancaster. What we call the technical term is Lancaster, but in the South we say Lancaster. So my grandmother's from Lancaster, South Carolina. That's how we say it in the South. But as I got cultured and educated, how you supposed to say it is Lancaster, South Carolina. But we say Lancaster. Lancaster, so, you know, most Charlotte people know what Lancaster is. Lancaster, South Carolina. So, you know, that's what I'm influenced by. You know. And so with all that's been done, with all that's been said, you know, you can see my potential as a leader and my caliber as a leader. But it has to be, I have to get raised as a king. I can't raise myself as a king. You know what I'm saying? You know, certain things have to flow in place as far as the community, which means we got to get certain things out of place in our community that's against me in order for a proper rising to be done. But one thing is for sure, black people can't sit back and just watch stuff happen and unfold. You got to sit back and support. If you see somebody has that caliber and that potential, like they on the MLK level or Malcolm X level, you don't just sit back and see what's gonna happen to them. See, that's the mistake we made with MLK. We just sat back and watched. When I don't feel like he should have even been at the Lorraine Motel. MLK was one of the most famous, prominent black teachers. Why was he at the Lorraine Motel? He should have been at the most expensive hotel. And we as black people should have paid for that. We should have paid for him to be out the way when we knew they was against him. We did not support. We had money back then. We had actors. We had black actors and black musicians back then. So you can't say we ain't have no money. We just didn't understand our position behind those type of individuals. And I coined the term for what they was. They were not just limited to civil rights movements. They were national leaders. It was so young in its conception. After its conception, we didn't even know what it was. They wasn't just civil rights movement leaders. Malcolm X talked about all kind of issues besides civil rights. You might could say that with MLK, but Malcolm X talked about so many other things. How can you say he was just limited to being a civil rights movement leader? So better to say between those two, based on intellectual property, they were national leaders. They were national leaders. And that's what we needed as black people. We needed national leaders. Somebody that's nationwide, all over this country, in educating our people, empowering our people. Not a politician, not even just a preacher. It's somebody that teaches and empowers the people outside of just talking about Christianity or Islam. That's what a national leader is. It's not just a preacher. And you can be a Christian to be a national leader, where you talk about all these issues like I'm talking about. And that's what we needed. You know, but after all this stuff happened, you know, to me, I have to express the repercussions, which is God is not pleased and God is not happy at this moment with America for what happened to me. See, it didn't go the way it went with Malcolm X. It didn't go the way it went with MLK. I was not embraced. I was not embraced by the community. I was played with by the community. And I just happened to be a prophet, right? That's why all of this stuff happened. And I warned people over and over again not to play with me. And they took it as a challenge, just me saying that, right? And until they seen the repercussions. Now you know I wasn't saying it as an empty threat. Now you know I wasn't saying it trying to be tough. I really warned people. That's how you know I'm not a bona fide villain. A villain ain't gonna warn you. A villain ain't gonna warn you about nothing. They gonna halfway smile when they know you're going in the wrong direction. I warned you not to play with me as Americans, and you still play with me. So I don't know how to reverse that. And even though you can see the caliber of person I am, I don't know how to reverse what's going to happen unless you meet me halfway, which is I have to have some type of money. It has to happen. That's the only way that we can move beyond the wrongs and actually get on the same page, right? It ain't no way in the world I'm gonna just hop up like some cartoon and be with all these people after what they done. And you should understand that. You should understand, as a man, I'm willing to live and die in my position if I don't get no money. That's me and my personal path, all the stuff I've been through out here in New York and California and Florida and here in North Carolina. It ain't no way in the world I'm willing to die in this position. Now I understand how the ancestors felt and how other people felt. When you come to a point, man, nothing else matters. You're willing to die in this position. I'm willing to die in this position for my money. It ain't no way in the world. It ain't no way in the world I'm letting this go without money. I would be a slave to let this go and I don't get no money off this. Think about that. And at my age, I'm 45 years old. I need money. I could see if I was 16 or, even in my early 20s. Nah, I'm 45. I need money. I need money to catch up past all this gang stalking and all this foolishness that's been going on. Time is money, as everybody know. Okay, so all the time I was being gang stalked, how you think I could have worked in that situation? For those who have been extremely gang stalked, you know that they will send people up to your job. They will send people up to your job, right? You think I could have worked in this situation, or it was better for me to play a spiritual warfare position like I did, and we got results as a result. We got results as a result of me playing my spiritual warfare position. So now you got to say I wasn't wrong. When you thought, oh, he should just get money, he should just be working. I know half of y'all said that, but how you feel now? See, that's why I can't really say what direction it's supposed to go maybe in a direction where we're supposed to get together, because you see what direction it's going in. Basically, I'm responding accordingly to what I'm going through, which is I play the spiritual warfare position and all of this stuff is getting handled, right? That's the lane, that's the position. It's hard to talk about building something when we at war. Make sense? So that's the dilemma. How can I talk about war? How can I talk about building when I'm at war? How can I talk about building in the same country when I'm at war? Ultimately, something has to get torn down before we build up. We can say that. Something has to be torn down before we can build up. Then we can build up a whole non-racist system. A whole non-racist system is ideal. That's why everybody should be less afraid of this being torn down, because it didn't work for you as black people anyway. If it gets reformed and rebuilt, it's going to be totally non-racist. All them racist roaches is going to scatter out of the system. I'll leave it right there, man. I'll leave it right there. But the condition of the battlefield, I think I pretty much covered it. Everybody feel like I covered it. That's in the back of my mind. Did I really cover all that's going on in the battlefield? I think so. That's the main condition is that all of this stuff that has happened has caused God to bring judgment on America. The systems are going to be shut down. That's the condition of the battlefield. Is that now moving ahead? You see how tricky it is, right? Because we can talk about all these good things, but ultimately, this is the way it's going. If I don't get money, I can't speak for everybody, but I've been through 4 states being gang stalked. If anybody got to get money, I got to. So if you look at all these people and say, well, we gang stalk all these people. I've been in 4 states with this stuff. I've been in California, New York, North Carolina, and Florida with this stuff. I got to get a bag, bro. I got to. Until then, there is no peace. No money, no peace. That's from me. That's from my position. No money, no peace. It's that simple. That's all I'm talking about. I ain't even really, to be honest with you, I'm not really focused on fighting no wars or fighting no specific people right now. You know, I feel like I made my point. I'm all about getting my money right now from these people. Then I know I can get it. I know I can get it, right? But y'all got to support. You know what I'm saying? You got to get out of your feelings, man, about all the stuff you heard and said and everything that's been done and said and done, whether it's from me and you. Y'all got to get out of y'all feelings. You know what I'm saying? If you really see what you see about me, and you see my caliber of person, not my potential. My potential has been fulfilled. I'm an A-star general because I beat the Americans through information of them marrying children, and everybody didn't know. I'm the only person that talked about it through the whole timeline of marrying children, up to the point where Donald Trump was in office. The last time y'all passed laws to marry children, July 1st, 2019. Ain't nobody you gonna find talking about child marriage laws in July 1st, 2019 but me. I'm the only one that's gonna talk about the whole timeline. Mind you, there was child marriage laws while Malcolm X was here and MLK. They could have both talked about child marriage and defeated America as far as morality. See, I'm the only person that defeated the racist white man's value system. He know he racist. You ain't gonna beat his value system because he don't value being non-racist. He don't value being a non-racist. So you gotta find something that, even though he racist, you got to find something he values in his value system. I did. I know he valued these white children. And I know a racist white man got a problem with America marrying children. So I beat the racist white man in his own value system. You find me somebody else who did that. Find me another person that beat white America in their own value system. They don't care about how they treat us. They don't get, so you can't beat that. Is not in his value system at all, right? So you can't beat him like that. You got to beat him. You got to find out, even beyond him being racist, what do he value as a racist white man? What does he value? And you got to beat him there. And I did it. I beat him. I know he values these children as white Americans, right? Now you see why I'm keep harping on this, because this is the Trojan horse. This is the win. This is where the bag is. This is where the Americans can't go no further is. Where I beat them in their own value system. Anybody misunderstand this? I beat them in their own value system. I know he cared about them white children. I know even though he was racist, most of these racist white Americans, much as they talk about their children, that's the main thing they talk about. America for our children, and they always talking about that. So I know for sure, for listening to him, that he cares about these children. I know he cares about these children. So I beat him in his own value system. You find me any other black man to beat him in his own value system. Malcolm X didn't do it. MLK didn't. They didn't beat them in their own value system. The racist people. I said the racist people. And MLK could have talked about child marriage while he was here. There was child marriage laws even back then. But Malcolm X took the time to out one of the Nation of Islam's leader. But he didn't take the time at the same time to find out the laws for marrying children while he was outing one of the Nation of Islam's leaders. And everybody who know the history of Malcolm X know exactly what I'm talking about when he was outing one of the leaders of the Nation of Islam for impregnating teenage girls, right? So then why Malcolm X, being a student of information, why didn't he take the time to see what the laws were concerning marrying children, where he could have defeated the Americans when he was already a healthy, robust opponent of America, why couldn't he go and look up the information on America marrying children when he was outing one of the Nation of Islam's leaders? MLK didn't do it either. So now you see that I'm beyond potential. Stop saying I got potential. This is my potential fulfilled. This is my potential fulfilled. When I'm the only person in your community that has successfully defeated the racist white man's value system. Things he actually do care about. He don't care about racism. We know that, obviously. Show me somebody else who did that. What all they said about him and all that, he don't care nothing about that. He doesn't care nothing about all that other stuff. What he did to us, the system, and how he set us up, he don't care. He knows he did that. He knows he did it. But he does care about them white children, don't he? So I'm pretty sure most of these racist white Americans will be glad, surprised to hear that their country has been marrying children this whole time. The prophet is the only one that beat these racist white Americans' value system. Now you see what I'm talking about. Now you see why they hate me. Now you see why America's against me. Instead of being one-track minded, worried about these ratchet politics of the past. We ain't on that no more. Listen, they hate me for different reasons. You got to keep up. Now they hate me because of child marriage laws and me outing this country about them marrying children. Trump don't like me because I outed him about him being in the office and he did nothing, virtually nothing about these child marriage laws, even though he didn't help to pass them. He didn't help to pass these laws, but he did nothing. And big as his mouth is, how Trump in office and he ain't say nothing about the child marriage laws? How was Trump in office and he ain't say nothing? Big as verbal as he is, big as his mouth is. Can you imagine Trump sitting back and not saying nothing about that? He didn't, and that's why he don't like me personally. Oh, I'm pretty sure he knows who I am, and that's why he don't like me personally. That's why he ain't calling no truce between me and him. Everybody know, listen, in between me and his country, everybody know that Trump is very sensitive to criticism. We all know that, right? With the news outlets and how he be suing these news outlets, talking about fake news, and anybody that even says something about him, even if it's considered constructive criticism, he's not good with handling any form of criticism. So imagine me telling him, or he finding out that I'm talking about him being in office. You see what I'm saying? Based on him not really being good with criticism from these news outlets and these different media outlets and these different people of the news media, these anchor men and anchor women, right? Imagine him getting hearing through the grapevine that I'm talking about him being in office and doing nothing about the child marriage laws, him being in office and saying nothing. That happened on his watch. Imagine how he feel about me. You think he's saying, oh, well, he's a great guy. You think he feels that way? He's just sitting back. He's just sitting back like, I ain't gonna help him. That's why. That's why. So you got to keep up with why I'm despised in this community. It's not for the initial reasons. Now it's for the reasons that I'm playing my spiritual position in spiritual warfare. That's the main foundational reason. I've been talking about child marriage laws in America, and that's the other reason. Those are the main two reasons. I'm playing my spiritual warfare position. I'm showing you how it's done on the spiritual side in the spiritual military. I'm doing that, and I'm talking about child marriage laws, America marrying children. That's why they hate me now. They hate me now because we getting spiritual manifestations. We playing our spiritual position, and and I'm talking about child marriage laws. I'm the only one that talked about the whole timeline. You ain't go find me somebody talked about the new child marriage laws passed July 1st, 2019. Why you bringing up the old videos about child marriage laws? Let's show me someone who's talking about the whole timeline of it. July 1st, 2019, new child marriage law. Show me somebody who show you the whole timeline. See, y'all didn't know how to raise up a king. That's what it was. You supposed to support indefinitely. When you hear people talking like this, you do not listen. You support. You don't make them kiss your butt. You don't make me kiss America's butt. No. You know why I'm mad. You know why I'm angry. You sidestep that and still support. That's what you're supposed to do. See, y'all made mistakes with all our leaders. You didn't know how to raise up kings. You have to support them and protect them at all costs. You're supposed to do that. All your leaders, all your musicians, you got it. Once you see they got certain caliber of intellectual property, you have to get behind them and protect them. You don't know what's going to happen to them in America. Once you see some high-ranking intellectual, high-caliber intellectual property, once you see that, you have to support, you have to get behind them. They out there on their own. I'm out here on my own. And some people are ratchet. They like it like that. That's the people we don't consider our own, man. You know what I'm saying? You see my intellectual property. Ain't no way in the world I could be a sellout or a racist with these worldviews and these sound bites and this intellectual property. Come on, man. Make that make sense. What happened was it was a war against the righteous Africans and the wicked Africans. That's what happened. And nobody don't want to say it like it is. That's what happened. It's just an extension of black on black crime and black on black war. It was a war between the righteous Africans and the wicked Africans. That's what happened. That's all that's going on. So I'm not the sellout. No, I played my position in spiritual warfare. I withdrew from embracing people in this country. That's what I'm supposed to do. You would have did the same thing. Okay? So, ultimately, we, at this point, without my money, as of right now, as things are, without bread, right? We, those who support me and those who stand with me, and I'm going to speak for me first, right? Because I'm solid on it, right? And I know that for sure. We're expecting extreme, severe escalation of wars against these gang stalkers and Americans. That's what this whole message is about. Not just the battlefield and the condition of the battlefield. This message is about we are expecting severe escalation of wars. So every time we look at the news, that's what we expect. We look at the news as cookies and ice cream when they going through what they going through. We ain't crying, we ain't sobbing, no. Okay? That means when it happens to any Americans, even your own community, your own ethnicity, you gotta suppress how you feel and realize this has to happen to the Americans because they gang stalk God's people, including black people, Hispanic and Latinos. Yes, they did. The Asians helped too. Yes, they did. We know they all Indians helped from India. Yes, they did. I seen them all out there, from California to New York to down here in North Carolina. I done seen them all. So then we gotta let happen what has to happen. You understand, right? You understand why? Because we've seen more than the average community and people. We've seen these people sit back here and gang stalk and think it's fun and think it's a game, right? So then when you start seeing their family on the news, you start seeing the Americans on the news, this is cookie and ice cream for us. You got to change your mind on how you see this situation. Everything that they go through, we looking for severe wars. We're looking for severe escalation of wars on these Americans. All type of wars here, all type of wars there, all type of wars internationally. This is where we're fasting at. You get me? This is where we're giving offerings at. This is what it came to. See, we got God's people can get serious as Green Berets, Navy SEALs. We can get just as serious. We can get just as serious as Marines and all of that in between. And that's where it's at. I don't lightly say I'm an A-star general because I defeated the Americans, right? We see everybody see the spiritual manifestations as well and the intellectual property. Okay? We are expecting severe escalation of wars. That's where we're at. We're expecting that to happen. Let that ponder that. I need you to ponder this. I need you to ponder this. We are expecting severe escalation of wars. Okay? You see who I am. You see, but there is not being reciprocated. It's nothing being funded. It's not being supported. So what we gonna do? Stand right here and talk about who I am? No, we're progressive. Anything that's retarded is not progressive. That's the definition of retardation, is anything that does not progress. We're constantly progressing. I can show you, if you apply that to anything in your community, you can see all this retarded stuff that does not progress. Anything that does not progress is retarded. That's the definition of retardation. Retardation means something that does not progress. So we're progressing past the point where we're just talking about money, and we're just talking about who I am, and people can see who I am. They can see the caliber of who I am. We're moving past that to talking about my money, past that to now we're looking for either bag or body bag. And now that they didn't get the bag, we're not just going to sit there. We're going to be progressive to the point where now something has to be done to these people that didn't get the money. That's the progressive point. Right? That's where we at. Now we could be pulled out of that place by the bag, by the money. But until then, we're still progressive. Which means we're going to stay in a spiritual warfare position until we get the money. Which means we're now looking for severe escalation of wars in this position until we get money. Until I get mine. That's where we at. Now the battlefield, all these people are still attacking. They suicidal, so they're attacking like suicidal people. They're all out here, everywhere, in every community, all around here, gang stalking all good people, gang stalking everybody we love, anybody we care about in the music, anybody you even look at, they gonna gang stalk them. That's how you need to think. That's how you need to think. They're all out here rampant. They're using their children. They're using people against us, old people, to try to see if we like old women and old men, all that kind of stuff too. They doing that too. They using everything you can think about, handicapped people, to see if you're attracted to handicapped people. All this stuff is happening. They're using the streets. They're using these department stores, these restaurants. They're using all of that. But they're suicidal. They're very suicidal. They're depressed. They regret what they did. They know they failed. You know what I'm saying? And that's where they are. But that's not going to help us. That's not going to do anything for us. That you have a sense of remorse or regret. That, you know, that's a Jedi mind trick in this situation. You know, we got to have money. You know, if you're feeling regretful, you ain't feeling regretful enough to get my money. And that's how we look at it. So, you know, that's basically the foundation of what I really need to say about the condition of the battlefield. The condition of the battlefield is they're suicidal, depressed. They got nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying? They know they wrong. Everybody done found out. The streets done found out. The streets want them dead. That's another thing. The streets want them dead. The streets ain't on their side. The streets want them. The streets feel like they went too far. They went far as they should have went. They went too far. The streets asked them to stop. The streets asked them to stop all they was doing. They did not stop doing what they was doing, and the streets told them to stop. So even the streets, even the real hood, told these people to stop, and they thought they was bad, and they kept going. So now, because they kept going, the streets feel like if you would have stopped when we told you to, this wouldn't have happened. So now we want you dead for it. That's the streets. I can't do nothing about that. So they got their own situation out there now with the streets. That's what y'all need to know. That's a part of the condition of the battlefield. See, many targeted individuals and high-ranking targeted individuals, you don't even know that. I'm giving you spiritual, real information. That's real. The streets want these people dead. They messed up the whole community. Everybody, all the communities, many communities want these people dead, bro. That y'all call Illuminati or whatever y'all call these people, Freemasons or whatever. All these people involved with the gang stalking, to be safe, they want these people dead, bro. The streets want them dead. You know what I mean? And I think that's really what I wanted to say, man. The streets want these people dead. You know what I'm saying? That's the main part that needs to be understood as far as the condition of the battlefield. Yeah, the streets want them dead. I'm talking about the real ones, the killers, the steppers, the drillers, those who drill. All these people, you know, with that mentality, want them dead, and higher ups, people with money, military, you know, certain people that's agents, they want them dead, bro. They done seen everything through my situation as a prophet. They done seen everything I went through, and they want these people dead, bro. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's their own opinion. I can't change that, and I don't want to change it, because as long as they don't get my money and they play me for stupid and still playing around with my mama living, they around here now. They done came. The psychological people, all the telepaths and astral projecting people. You know, like I said, I want their civil cord to be cut. Their civil cord, that's the term. The civil cord to be cut, so they can bounce out of their body. All these astral projecting bastards all around here, mind readers and everything, using their energy. They got some kind of stuff in this community and with this American community where they can see what we thinking on a grid. Somewhere they can see what we thinking on the grid as our brain is on the grid. They can use certain devices to point it towards certain individuals, and somehow they find the frequency, some type of electricity of your brain, if that makes sense. And that's how they find and track your brain with some type of device. And they watching our brains and they watching everything we thinking about. Okay? And they followed me here to where I'm at now. That's a death sentence, man. Well, nah, listen, man. Listen, Bo. Listen, Bo. If you follow me, Bo, from South Charlotte to West Charlotte, and you think you gonna cozy up with me like you did in South Charlotte, listen, bro, it's World War III. We expecting severe escalation of wars. The streets already want them people dead. We ain't trying to change that. We ain't trying to change a bit of that. That's the condition. They want them dead. The American government is saying it's over too. They all say they know what's going on. They said it's over. For if you don't know that as a targeted individual, the government is well aware of this, and they said it's all over. Everybody's saying we went too far. The gang stalkers went too far. America went too far. That's another condition of the battlefield. Things that you don't know that they're saying, right? You could assume that. I'm telling you what they're saying. You could think they're thinking this. I'm telling you what they're actually saying. They're saying in real time that they went too far and it's over. Okay? So we really don't got nothing to worry about. It's a great condition for us. But for those who want to live, you almost in a different lane from us. I hate to say it. I ain't saying I want to die, but we almost in two different lanes. If you want this country to go on, man, you got to do what I said. For me, they got to get my money. I ain't worried about nobody dying. What that's going to do for me if somebody dies? A dead body ain't going to do nothing for me. Dead people ain't going to do nothing. That's how you know I ain't crazy. Because dead people ain't going to get no money for me. I ain't gonna eat off no people being dead. No. I want my money. That's what I want. I want my money. That's how you know I'm a grown man. I ain't talking about no superhero anime stuff going on. No animation cartoon hero. I'm a hero for America. Hero stuff. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about my money like a grown man should. And I ain't gonna change my position. I'm gonna live and die in this position if I got to. That's where it's at for me. That's where it's at. That's the condition of the battlefield. Like I said, the streets want them dead. People that spin the block, you know what I'm saying? People that spin the block, people that slide, people that pull up, all them people want them dead, bro. You know what I'm saying? The streets know about it. The streets know about it. Just in case you don't know, gangsters and thugs know all about this. All the rappers know all about this. And they all want these people dead, man. That's what it is. They want these people that y'all call Illuminati, Freemasons, gang stalkers. Everybody want them dead. Everybody that's real, basically. All real ones want them dead. That's where everybody stand. Whether they stand with me or not is another situation. They want them dead for causing the condition of this country to be in the situation that it's in. They want them dead based on the condition of this community. They know they caused this. I just played my spiritual warfare position. I'm supposed to do that. I don't supposed to sit back and let nobody play with me as a grown man. I'm supposed to be willing to die in my position. And even God will understand that. I don't supposed to sit back and let nobody play with me like I'm a baby, like I'm a child, and humiliate me and drag me through the mud like I'm a worm. You supposed to be willing to die. Go ahead and leave the earth if you're being treated like that. You supposed to go ahead and be ready to leave the earth. That's why I'm giving you solutions. I'm telling you we already to that point anyway, babe. You see what I'm saying? So why not go ahead and go all the way and do what we gotta do? That's why I'm talking about spiritual warfare position. Fasting. I'm on a 10-day fast. That's why I'm not coming off. I gotta have this thing done. See, it's stuff that's going on that I'm paying attention to that many of y'all are not paying attention to. Like right now. See, our mindset is on higher wars, these wars in the international community. That's what the high-ranking spiritual warriors are doing. We ain't paying attention to no America no more. We paying attention to Iran right now more than anything else. We paying attention to these tariffs on Canada that just took effective, that was effective Wednesday of this morning, right? That's why I got to stay on the fast. Some people that looking at my fast, oh, you don't need to fast. But you ain't paying attention to all this other stuff going on. And now, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know this tariff situation was going on with Canada. Now I see why God got me fasting. Because we trying to cause escalation of wars, severe escalation of wars. Playtime is over. This is the top elite, like Green Beret, Navy SEAL, Marines. That's what we talking about here. The best of the best, the most dangerous soldiers. That's what we are. We the most dangerous soldiers. We are expecting, and when you play with the most dangerous soldiers, why ain't gonna get the most dangerous byproducts and most dangerous wars, most dangerous things and attributes, the most dangerous things happen to you? Listen, how it ain't gonna happen? We want severe escalation of wars. That's what we want. I already showed you how you got to come out of the white American Christian experience. Not saying you ain't got no white Christian brothers and sisters. We love them, but we cannot live according to the era that was created, era teaching that was created based on white American experience ignorantly. Where they taught us like we ain't gonna never go to war. We ain't gonna never have no wars. Now America done changed on the Christians. And now we gotta go to war like times of old. Like the old ancient times. Now we gotta go to war. So now you gotta just get out of your comfort zone and realize things changed. It changed. This is the surprise. I told you, history is full of surprises. That's one of my quotes. One of my quotes is the history is full of surprises. This is another surprise. Surprise! America's against Christians. You didn't expect that. They're gang stalking Christians. They couldn't tell all of America, because if they told all of America that they was gang stalking Christians, America would have been on our side. They would have defeated them. They had to bring up people like me with a rugged background and all this stuff. They had to put me in the mix and act like I was the only one, because I became the poster boy for all this stuff. Meanwhile, they hated me the most, right? So that's why they wanted me dead the most, and they put their efforts towards me the most. Makes sense? But meanwhile, they was gang stalking all these other Christians. Why they just put me in this arena because I was the strongest and I had all this intellectual property and I'm talking like this on videos. So that's why they set this all up around me to make it look like it's entertainment and it's a fight and it's a cool fight and all of that. Meanwhile, they gang stalking all these Christians. That's it. You know how long it took me to figure out this? They gang stalking all these Christians. Pay attention. Go look what Christians talking about, monitoring spirits. That's the main thing Christians talking about with these gang stalkers. Monitoring spirits. Christians talking about gang stalkers and all of that. How can we all be talking about this and it's not true? That ain't no mental sickness. How we gonna form it and be talking about the same thing with the same form? With the same form now. Mental sickness don't got the same form with how they verbalize and articulate things. No, ain't nobody talking about the same thing. Oh, what? People following you around? Nah, we too descriptive. Everybody's talking about the same description. It's too precise of a description of the same things. It is gang stalking going on. And it's the Illuminati and it's the Freemasons. One of the two, whoever it is, that's between them two. These other secret societies might be involved too. This is why, man. This is why you see how it lined up. They wind up gang stalking a prophet and it all ended. All the stuff they've been doing over the years to these people. They played with a prophet and I stood up and I used my spiritual weapons. That's why y'all can't stand in the way of me to get this done. They thought they was just going to be able to kill me and get it over with and wash their hands and do a little dance. Wash their hands and do a little dance. God had other plans. God had other plans. They thought they was going to wash their hands and do a little dance, and God had other plans. You see how that rhymes? Look, man, let me tell you something. They not getting away with this. They're not getting away with it. What we gonna do, what's gonna be done, is we gonna play a spiritual position of fasting and giving offerings while for these wars to escalate and for these systems to be shut down in America specifically. We want America more than anywhere else. I do, at least me. I want America more than anyone else. But we going about it by spiritual means. We fasting, we giving offerings, and we want these systems to be shut down. We want, yes, it came to this. This is after years and years of being played with. We start molding our own spiritual war. That's what happened. Now, if you think this started yesterday, you're gonna think I'm crazy. You're listening to a person that has been going through this for years. For years now. That's why we own it like we own it. And so we want severe escalation of wars. We want severe escalation of wars. Indefinitely. And we're going about it all by spiritual means. So for God's true people, salute. Over and out.